Good morning, good morning. Welcome to the New York City Council hearing on the Committee on Housing and Building. At this time, please silence all electronics and do not approach the dais. I repeat, please do not approach the dais. If you are testifying today, make sure you fill out a slip at the back of the room with the Sergeant at Arms, even if you signed up online. We also have translation devices in the lobby, Spanish translation, so if you need Spanish translations, you can pick one up in the lobby. Thank you for your cooperation. Chair, you may begin.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Councilmember Birina Sanchez, Chair of the Committee on Housing and Buildings. Today, the New York City Council is holding an oversight hearing on an issue that touches the lives of thousands of New Yorkers, the Affordable Housing Lottery, and the flawed platform that our city uses to administer the lottery, Housing Connect. I've said it time and again as chair of this committee, and sadly, it is no less true today. New York City is in the throes of a housing crisis. We know the statistics: a 1.4% vacancy rate for rental units, with more than half of renters rent-burdened and a third of low-income renters severely rent-burdened. If you want a low-cost unit, you essentially cannot find one. But today, I urge us to look beyond these statistics and remember the human costs of the resources that we do have available are confusing and difficult to navigate. Every day, in my district office in the West Bronx, we serve dozens of our neighbors who are desperate to find an apartment, to find a safe, affordable place that they can call home. My staff works tirelessly to help these constituents gather their paperwork, navigate a platform that often leaves them with more questions than answers, and, for the lucky few, secure an apartment after months or sometimes years of trying. But for as much support as we provide, the reality is that for many, the technology has made it harder, not easier, for New Yorkers to find an affordable apartment that meets their needs. Today, our hope is to shine a light on fundamental issues that continue to plague Housing Connect and turn our collective attention toward solution. Some context: between January 2014 and June of 2020, a 6-year period, 29 million applications were received on Housing Connect, compared to just 27,819 leases signed. That means that just one lease was issued for every 1,000 applications that were submitted. The root cause here is, of course, that we have just a fraction of the affordable apartments that we need to meet the demand. But the application technology itself also causes a necessary delay. For instance, according to the fiscal year 2025 Mayor's Management Report, it takes HPD an average of 191 days to approve an applicant after the applicant has won the lottery. During this period, the lottery winner's housing unit sits vacant, denying someone the opportunity to live in an affordable home for over 6 months. And some types of affordable apartments regularly take longer than 191 days to fill. In cases where a previously occupied affordable unit becomes available, which is commonly known as a re-rental, HPD's marketing handbook or requirements require that the building's marketing agent reach out one by one to applicants who expressed an interest in re-rental units in general when they created their Housing Connect account. This process leads to the marketing agent contacting applicants who may not be interested in a particular re-rental unit that has become available and creates delays in finding a new tenant for the affordable home. There are also concerns that the lottery system is not accessible to some New Yorkers, especially those who may struggle to use Housing Connect's online interface. In particular, older adults, older New Yorkers, and New Yorkers without access to a computer face significant barriers when it comes to learning about new housing lottery opportunities and responding to HPD's notifications in a timely manner. And although HPD's marketing handbook requires that few applicants and it's very distracting.
Someone has translation services.
Oh, okay.
It's loud.
Okay, no problem. I'm just like, are they talking to me? Okay, no problem. And although HPD's marketing handbook requires that paper application, okay, I already read that. Okay, proving that you are income eligible for an affordable housing unit is difficult enough and shouldn't be further complicated by barriers to computer literacy or access. To address these issues with the housing lottery system, I've introduced a number of bills that we will hear today. They are Intros 1264, which would require HPD to allow users to apply directly to specific re-rental units on Housing Connect. Intro 1265, which would allow applicants or a designee of their choice to receive notifications concerning lottery applications by email or text message. So, figure grandma can assign her grandchild to receive those notifications. And Intro 66, which would establish a program to provide in-person community centers, and recreation centers. These three bills aim to improve the efficiency of the housing lottery system and ensure that more New Yorkers have a fairer shot at securing an affordable apartment. I want to thank our partners at the University Neighborhood Housing Program, or UNHP, the members of Ahora, Affordable Housing Opportunities Right Away, for their collaboration on this legislation, as well as my staff, Maria Villalobos, Ben Ratner, Kim Castellanos, Gerard Fernandez, Paola Olivo, Joenia Llegue, Carla Castellanos, Gerard Fernandez, Paola, that's repeated, okay. And of course, our committee staff, Austin Maloney, Jose Conde, Andrew Bourne, Dirk Spencer, Jack Story, and Reese Hirota. I'm joined today by Councilmember Eric Dinowitz and Crystal Hudson. We will be joined by others shortly. And before we hear from HPD, I'd like to read an opening statement from Councilmember De La Rosa, who could not join us today, but her bill 1207 is also being heard. You ready? I'm going to be Carmen. I'm going to do my best impression. Okay. All right. Good morning, Chair, colleagues, and members of the public. Today we'll be hearing my bill, Intro 1207, a common sense and urgently needed amendment to the Administrative Code of the City of New York, one that supports our workforce, strengthens city services, and responds directly to operational challenges we face today. This bill would allow time spent in a New York State-approved apprenticeship program to count toward the supervised practical experience required to obtain a high-pressure boiler operating engineer license. Currently, applicants must first complete a 2-year apprenticeship and add at least 3 or more years of supervised experience operating high-pressure boilers. Intro 1207 eliminates this unnecessary duplication by recognizing the hands-on supervised experience gained during the apprenticeship as valid toward the 3-year requirement. This change is not only logical, it is essential. The Department of Buildings, which recommended this bill, is facing a significant backlog on licensing engineers. By streamlining the pathway to licensure without compromising safety or quality, we can efficiently grow a skilled, qualified workforce. At a time when we are working hard to refill vacancies across our municipal agencies, this legislation is aligned with our broader mission to ensure that we have the personnel in place to deliver high-quality, reliable services to all New Yorkers. Intro 1207 is about removing unnecessary barriers, expanding opportunities for working people, and making government work smarter. I urge my colleagues to support this bill and help move it forward. Thank you to Councilmember Shekhar Krishnan for your partnership. Thank you to IUOE Local 30 and Department of Buildings for advocacy and work on this bill. Thank you, Chair Sanchez, and the committee council for allowing us the opportunity to have this bill heard today. Thank you, Councilmember De La Rosa. Okay.
Your impression was not good.
It was not good.
It
All
just
right.
sounded like
Don't tell her. Okay.
It sounded just like
Thank you so much, everyone. I will now turn it over to committee counsel to administer the oath.
Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and to answer all council member questions honestly?
I do.
I do.
Thank you. You may begin.
Good morning, Chair Sanchez, members of the committee, and all our partners that help make affordable housing possible in New York City. My name is Ahmed Tigani, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak with you today as the Acting Commissioner of the Department of Housing Preservation and Development. Thank you for inviting me here and for allowing me to be joined by my team, the Deputy Commissioner of Housing Access and Stability, Meryl Block-Weissman, and the Associate Commissioner of Housing Opportunity and Placement Services, Emily Osgood. We are grateful for the chance to discuss one of the most powerful tools in HPD's mission to expand access to affordable housing, the Housing Connect Lottery. We talk to New Yorkers every day who are doing everything they can to stay in this city. Some have only ever known this place as home. people working 1 or 2 jobs to make ends meet, single parents, frontline workers, retired New Yorkers on fixed incomes who helped shape the neighborhoods we love. These residents are now seeking access to affordable housing opportunities that meet them where they are at a cost they can afford in a neighborhood that they love. We hear from children that grew up in this city and now adults returning home after college in search of new opportunity, and families who want nothing more than a stable, affordable home where they can raise their children in peace. Today, we find ourselves at a moment of real urgency, with a frightening low vacancy rate of just 1.4% for all apartments, and to break it down further, 0.94% for apartments priced at $2,400 and less, and then less than 0.39% for homes at $1,100. We're at virtually zero for extremely low-income families. The housing crisis is not looming, it's here. Rents continue to rise while demand for affordable housing far outpaces that supply. For too many New Yorkers, the process of securing housing feels like a full-time job in itself. It's complicated, it can be slow, it's filled with uncertainty. This is a moment that calls on all of us to move with urgency, clarity, and purpose. That's why our work at HPD, especially within the Office of Housing Access and Stability, is focused on one clear goal: cutting through the red tape and getting people housed. We're not just managing this Housing Connect system, we're breaking it down, we're taking in and assessing feedback, and we are rebuilding it to be faster, more responsive, and easier to navigate. This past fiscal year, we didn't just talk about removing barriers, we did it. We eliminated credit checks for voucher holders, because families with rental assistance should not be blocked by barriers that were never even necessary. We updated the marketing handbook, reducing paperwork, removing notarization requirements, easing documentation for federal benefit recipients, and making the process more accessible for people with disabilities. We're even making marketing smarter. In addition to requiring most new lotteries to advertise in newspapers and conduct outreach to local community-based organizations and elected officials, HPD and HDC is the Housing Development Corporation and our sister agency in the housing work. We send email blasts to hundreds of thousands of active Housing Connect users whenever a new opportunity becomes available. We also email applicants directly when there's an update to their profile, whether it's a reminder to submit documents, a status on an appeal, or a final determination, so they never miss a step in the process. Our website also offers Housing Connect trainings with short, informative videos on how to apply lotteries, set up an account, income eligibility, and more, along with a FAQ, frequently asked questions document, answering New Yorkers' most often sought after issues and questions. We're already seeing results from those changes. In 2024, HPD helped more New Yorkers move into affordable housing than ever before. 14,654 households. That's over 14,000 second chances, new beginnings, and families finally able to exhale. Of those, more than 10,000 secured homes through Housing Connect lotteries, and another 4,600 families moved out of shelter and into HPD's homeless set-aside units. In total, more than 300 affordable housing lotteries were advertised this year, opening up opportunities across the 5 boroughs. And currently, today, there are 31 rental opportunities available in Housing Connect, resulting in 2,675 units across the city that people can apply to. This work is about keeping New Yorkers housed. That's why we've expanded the programs and support systems that promote long-term stability. We've refreshed our retention and stabilization service requests for qualifications, which is our document that we refresh so that there are providers who support formerly homeless clients, if they choose, to maintain a stable tenancy after moving into affordable housing. For families transitioning out of shelter, we've provided $2 million in essential furniture vouchers, helping them settle in with stability and dignity. And with the councils and the New York City Department of Consumer and Worker Protection's help, we've issued the Ready to Rent program, pairing free financial counseling with hands-on application support so more New Yorkers can successfully navigate the process from the very beginning. We also coordinate educational campaigns, trainings, and in-person events with the Department for the Aging, the Department of Veteran Services, the NGEV, the Department to End Gender-Based Violence, and other city agencies to work hand in hand and share the most up-to-date information with our communities. Another key component of our outreach is the Housing Ambassador Program, a network of about 50 trusted community-based organizations at over 60 locations across all 5 boroughs that work directly with New Yorkers to help them apply for affordable housing, maintain their Housing Connect profiles, and navigate the tenant selection process. Many of the council members here today represent districts with active housing ambassadors, and we're grateful for your partnership in connecting residents to those important services. This on-the-ground work is further supported by HPD's Housing Connect outreach team, which leads public-facing lottery presentations and workshops in partnership with community organizations and in collaboration with elected officials. In calendar year 2024 alone, this team helped coordinate nearly 80 events citywide, reaching more than 3,000 New Yorkers. For residents who need help at and outside of these events, our Housing Connect hotline offers another layer of support. Staffed by a dedicated team of 22 incredible public servants, the hotline responds to over 10,000 calls annually. We also maintain a dedicated customer service email that fields hundreds of questions and complaints each week. Beyond this, HPD's Division of Neighborhood Development and Stabilization, which is a part of the Office of Neighborhood Strategies. You normally work with them on planning work, on our neighborhood plans and individual public sites. They interact with the community, and through that work also offer a venue for talking about Housing Connect, learning about Housing Connect. They regularly attend citywide events and speaking engagements to represent HPD's programs and respond to housing questions. But we also know there's more work to do. We're investing in the future of our systems, starting with a full-scale overhaul of Housing Connect. We're committed to making it faster, clearer, and easier to use. This work is already underway and will continue over the next year. As part of the broader transformation, we're carefully reviewing the legislation being considered today. Intro 1266 would require HPD to create an in-person Housing Connect assistance program in coordination with other agencies. We recognize the intent behind this bill, and it's something we believe in as well, to ensure New Yorkers can get the help they need navigating the affordable housing process. As mentioned before, we have a number of existing relationships with community organizations through our Housing Ambassador Program. Plus, we recently launched a new Neighborhood Tech Help Initiative in partnership with the public libraries, providing the kind of in-person support we believe the council is seeking. From one-on-one digital guidance to multilingual application assistance and help with completed paper applications, these programs are connecting New Yorkers to housing opportunities every day. We'd welcome the opportunity to discuss ways we can work with the council on these efforts. Intro 1265, which proposes notifying applicants through Housing Connect and allowing them to designate a representative to receive updates, presents a really thoughtful opportunity. Whether it's a daughter helping her mother, a caseworker supporting a client, or a friend assisting someone without regular internet access, this flexibility can make a real difference. We'd love to explore how we can build this out together as part of the Housing Connect redesign. Our preference is to shape this as a flexible, user-informed feature, something we can adapt and improve over time. We're currently engaged in testing a set of new waivers and program processes and would like the opportunity to test and refine what works best for applicants. At this time, we'd like to see this process continue before determining if legislation is needed. Intro 1264, which addresses how affordable housing units that become vacant are re-rented through the Housing Connect portal, touches on a process we are actively rethinking. We recently rolled out a new temporary update, the third update announced over the last few years to improve the process. Re-rentals will continue to be required to be posted publicly and accessibly, but it will not be necessary to send it through HPD's Housing Connect system, though many may continue to do so voluntarily. This added flexibility is one example of ways we're testing strategies to help fill units faster and reduce unnecessary paperwork. Over the next year, we plan to rebuild re-rentals, bring it up to speed using insights from the pilot, housing advocates, New Yorkers, building owners, marketing agents, and recommendations from the council in this hearing to guide that work. In closing, I want to be clear, this is a priority for me, and we know that there's still more work to do. But we've seen what's possible when we act quickly, listen closely, and stay focused on what matters. Thank you for your partnership and for holding us accountable to the New Yorkers we serve. Thank you to the New Yorkers who use our program every single day and provide us with feedback on how to make it better. I look forward to working with you to keep pushing this work forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. I'm taking the acting out, so Commissioner, just speak it into existence. How amazing would the world be if we had Ahmed as Commissioner of HPD? Like, let's make it happen. Okay, you heard it here first. Yeah, we are. Spirit fingers, I think, is better. No, thank you, Commissioner, for your engagement on this. Thank you also for the announcement that HPD made this week. I think that's a step in the right direction, of course, on dealing with the issue of rentals. And thank you for your thoughtful testimony. I look forward to hearing more. I want to just start off with a couple of clarifying questions on your testimony, and then I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues before I come back for my, you know how we roll, the in-depth stuff. So, for starters, very excited to see a reference to a redesign of the Housing Connect system. Can you just talk a little bit more about that? What time? I know the agency has been engaging stakeholders. What's your timeline and time frame and sort of the scope of changes that you're considering?
Absolutely. So we've already put in place maybe the hardest part of the work, which is making sure that we have both the funding in place, the technical advisors in place, the contract in place, to be able to have the team that works through the changes we want to work on. We've also, again, I'm very grateful to the support of HDC, been able to bring on additional staff just to work through our scope of work and make sure that we have the team in place. Right now, we believe that the next year is a critical year for us in being able to not only ensure that we have the right business requirements through the conversations we've had with partners. Those conversations happen every day informally, but we've also launched a series of more formal roundtables with marketing agents. Going back to last fall, we've had 8 so far, and we'll continue to have more with a plan to bring in some subset for user testing when the appropriate time happens. So from a timeline perspective, we had started this process from the research and analysis deep dive probably in the fall. We had been going much earlier in terms of building up what we thought we needed since probably the last launch, which was 2020, was the last time we refreshed Housing Connect. We actually make updates to Housing Connect every 2 months or so because things come up. New technology is introduced by marketing agents or owners where they are changing the way that they are working with applicants, so we're doing regular updates. But this overhaul is probably going to be the better part of the next year, and we'll hopefully be able to stay track on that.
Thank you. Can you explain to the public where is Housing Connect hosted, right? Who has control of the technology? What does it mean for HPD to make changes? Is that a third party or is that internal to the agency?
So HPD is the owner of the technology, with HDC as our partner in this work. The actual technology is hosted on hardware housed in a city building. We work very closely with OTI on that. And we are looking actually across our various systems, both the ones that we have and new ones that we're building, on what the most nimble and flexible technology is. So there's a lot of discussion about moving to cloud technology as a hosting solution. We just always have to make sure it's meeting our security requirements, that it allows us the ability to make adjustments. The team that maintains it is the vendor that we have on board that acts as a maintenance partner. We have staff within HPD's Office of Technology that also supports this work. And we have colleagues at OTI, especially on the hosting component of it, that supports us. So all three partners. And then on the when changes have to be made or build out, it's the same partners, and now we have some additional support from HCC moving forward.
Got it. Thank you. Can you share the size of the contract with the vendor that helps to maintain Housing Connect?
I don't have that number, but we're happy to get that number to you immediately.
Thank you. Noting that. Just in terms of process, let's say that a constituent has identified that there's a radio button missing. There's no submit button here. Is that something that HPD and HDC work out together with OTI, or that you have to go to the vendor to get changed?
So we would go to the vendor, and this is actually something that happened recently. This happens, people will notice either glitches with the system, or we'll either get email from applicants. Often we'll get feedback from marketing agents on, there's a front side of the system, there's also a back side of the system where the batching happens and applicants are drawn down. And if they see errors, they'll contact staff directly or incoming through our customer email or our phone line. Once we see that there's an issue, HPD Tech and our PruTech maintenance team work together to correct that issue. Sometimes it may involve being able to do it live, so they'll work in the test environment and then be able to migrate the solution into the live version of it, or they may have to take down the portal for a certain number of hours, which a notice is provided. We send an email to marketing agents and put information up on our website.
Thank you so much. That's a great segue to my next question. My team in the last 2 weeks has flagged for me multiple times, multiple outages of Housing Connect, which is a really big problem because we have seniors, persons that, they're digitally divided, right? And they have appointments that they schedule months in advance, sometimes because there are very long waiting lists for housing ambassadors. And now the day that their appointment is scheduled for, Housing Connect is down. So what is this notice? How far in advance are you telling the public that Housing Connect is going to have an outage?
So as soon as we find out that there's a problem, and I'm going to actually ask Emily to build where I'm missing. As soon as we find out that there's a problem, often that's the moment we take action. If we realize that there's is an inability to correctly use the site or the site's malfunctioning, then there's not something we can do to create sort of a safe mode environment for it to move forward with, then we'll take down the site, and we'll notify people. But Emily, if you can explain further.
Sure. We're notifying marketing agent partners.
Yeah, bring it closer to you. Mm-hmm.
I never want to be that person shouting into the mic. Notifying.
What's wrong with
marketing agent partners, housing ambassadors, our teams, and putting the notice up on the website. Usually when the site has to be down for just an hour or two, we're working up until that point. So it may be the day before, it may be the day of.
Got it. I would like to acknowledge that we've been joined by Councilmember Abreu and turn it to Councilmember Dinowitz for questions.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, Commissioner. Hope all is well, Commissioner. So I want to clarify something. For someone applies, people apply for housing on Housing Connect, and then for a given unit, you send out offers in batches of 250. Is that accurate?
So if someone is applying on Housing Connect, so someone submits an application, there's a period of time in which we're collecting applications, then then the window closes, and the applicants are then there are two parts of it. There's we have still existing preferences, and then we also have the general lottery. There's a log number built. Everyone's randomized, right? You don't want to be penalized for
right. But I'm just asking. Yeah. You don't send out. Let's say 10,000 people apply. You don't send out 10,000. No. You have batches of 250. Yeah. Okay. What % of those people are rejected because they don't meet the qualifications in any given batch? What's the average percentage that people are rejected because they don't fit the criteria for a given unit?
I don't know.
let's get back to you on the percent that is rejected per batch.
People are rejected, though, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So and it could be something on the early part where it's eligibility for the unit. It could be income eligibility. It could, if it's in the preference category, it's a preference piece, and then they're moved into the general pool. There are a lot of different reasons why that happens. So I think we will also try to break it down around that.
I'd love to see that. And then how long between each batch of offers? You give a batch, how many weeks until the next batch is offered?
I think it's a back and forth, right? So we are providing,
like on average, like you guys send out a batch of 250.
Yeah.
On average, how many weeks does it take to then offer the next batch?
I think two things I would just say, and
Sure.
I'm going to give you a number for one of them. So they're different for different size buildings. The lottery can be more or less complicated. So we provide a batch of applicants to our marketing agent. The marketing agent goes through that process. When they're done with files and they decide whether an applicant is the right applicant or not, that's when we will give more information for them to flow through. I think the number we're at is around, when it reaches the marketing agent, it's about 40 to 45 days.
Okay.
Where
I'm going to tell you why I'm asking. Okay, but that's helpful. So 45 days between, we don't know the percentage of people rejected because they don't qualify, but it's a number. And here's why I'm asking. Because we do Housing Connect in my office, we work with a number of providers that we fund in the city council, that the filters on the Housing Connect search, they don't properly remove listings that don't fall under certain criteria of the filter. So a user may apply for filter, they say, I can afford this much, I have this many people, but it pops up a bunch of other options, and they say, well, the filter tells me that I qualify. So I'm going to go ahead and apply for those apartments, only to find out that, within 45 days, let's say, they don't qualify. Additionally, a person's income is not relevant if they have a voucher, correct?
If they
have the voucher, right? So there's no option to say, hey, I have a voucher, and to block out the income and just show, what your voucher amount is. That leads to confusion. But I think the issue here is with a filter that doesn't actually filter properly, you have people applying for apartments who may not qualify. Now, that's a pain in the butt for them. But what's worse is that someone in the second or third batch who would have otherwise qualified, their spot may have been taken up by someone who didn't qualify, who could have been told beforehand, if the filter were properly working, that they're not going to qualify for this apartment, so they should apply for something for which they qualify for. So, can Housing Connect be amended? Can you guys amend Housing Connect to make a more accurate filter system?
So I would, two parts. Yes. So this is actually something that we're looking at, and I'll let Emily build on it. I'd say that on the voucher piece, it's something that we've been talking about specifically. We have actually seen some good success with voucher holders in 2024. We had about a little over 2,600 individuals move into units in Housing Connect with vouchers out of the shelter system. So we know there's a pathway, but
which is wonderful. But what I don't want to see is someone with a voucher saying, "Oh, I don't qualify because the filter tells me I need to make a certain amount of money."
And I guess my follow up there is that through that work, we're seeing that we can actually make it more clear. So the front end filter is one of the areas that's on our scope list.
And do you have a timeline for when that filter is going to be updated?
I don't have a timeline yet. We can come back to the council as we with updates on where we are in Housing Connect.
I would love to see a timeline on that, and you certainly love those percentages, because that is going to speak to how one of the reasons people may be waiting so long is because other people who don't qualify for certain apartments are taking up those spots. I just want to quickly ask about the efficiency of the system. As I mentioned earlier, we in the council, millions of dollars for housing providers. I know we have Josh Stevenson from West Bronx Housing right here. Great work in our office. And our staff spend countless hours on Housing Connect, but one of the challenges our providers run into is doing the work for their clients. And they share with me a provider portal would help the organizations work more efficiently with clients to check the status of applications and work through the lottery process as a whole, and it can include a list of ongoing applications by the provider's clientele. Could HPD implement such a portal specifically for providers that we fund with city dollars to ease the lottery application process for for residents of New York City and making their work more efficient.
I'd be happy to talk more about it. I think one of the bills here also talks about information sharing between individuals and third parties. A lot, and we saw this when implementing the emergency housing voucher program and our housing choice voucher program. There are questions about technology, which we'll talk through, and then there's the security and the data privacy piece. How do you make sure that we ensure it's going to the right eyes, only the eyes that the applicant signed off on, and then if there is a separation between the applicant and the provider, how do you make sure that that information is no longer available? These are questions we've answered before, and we should just talk through.
Okay, I would love to talk through that with you. And just secondly, because my time's up, and I appreciate the chair for letting me extend, is is there any barrier, what barriers exist that can be broken down to port documents directly from Access HRA? Because, again, people are already uploading documents to one system. This is New York City. It's the same, should be the same computer system. What barriers exist between the document sharing in those instances?
So I'll let my colleagues correct me if I'm wrong, but starting last year, we actually, taking a step back, we are using federal dollars that we received during COVID to build on a set of recommendations and working group discussions to bring together DSS, HRA, HPD, DOHMH more closely together, especially as it relates to our homeless placement services. A lot of this work has resulted in us getting to over 100% increase in placements. So there are two parts of this. There is A, setting in place the legal framework for data exchange, which we've been working on since EHV and moving forward and putting those agreements in place. And now we have funding for and building toward a shared dashboard just to make sure that we're looking at the same numbers. And then the next part would be being able to use reciprocity on documents.
Yes. So I guess the same question, could you provide a timeline for that document reciprocity?
We can come back to you and tell you where we are in the process.
Thank you. Very last thing, very quick. I've been informed by one of my community boards.
Just ask him when he's coming back.
When are you coming back to me? Thank you.
I have to look. We will, after this hearing, I promise we will get back to you this week with a set of times that we think we can get back to you and information on answers to all this information.
Thank you. And very last, one of my local community boards has reached out to schedule presentations by HPD on Housing Connect, and I've been told they've been having trouble getting that appointment. So
we can reach out today.
Okay, we'll speak afterwards about that, but thank you very much. And Chair, thank you, and appreciate the time. Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Acting Commissioner.
Thank you, Councilmember Dinowitz. Okay, yeah, and I just, to hammer on that point of timeline, I think this hearing is all about frustrations that constituents, providers, service providers as well have had with the platform, and this feeling like, when they have tried to share feedback with the agency, they've been met with a lack of engagement, right? And we don't need to legislate all these changes. We can talk it out, but only if there's that real commitment to a timeline. Like, we want to know when we're going to sit down, when are we going to be able to talk together about this, because there's Housing Connect was amazing about 12 years ago when it was created, and there was that update in 2020, but there are still these frustrations, and we see AI, we see what's happening in other technological advancements, so we want to understand how the agency is also taking advantage of these available technologies, and if there are any hindrances to doing so. So on that, I want to go back to the questions about the contract and the vendor. Who is the vendor? And can you just share if there are any hindrances with updating the technology more in a bigger way than just radio buttons or glitches? What does that look like? Do you have to recontract or anything like that?
So the vendor is Prutech. They've worked with us before, and we're working with them on a number of different projects. They have worked with the city for a long time. We have talked to them about really having a pretty broad approach to making dramatic changes to the program. I do feel at this point that within scope there is a lot that we can do. A lot that certainly has been mentioned here at the hearing has been things that we've talked to them about and wanted to work on. And as we continue to meet and talk and engage with both the public and regularly check in with the council on this, I think that we'll be able to fit within our scope what we need to do. There's always the opportunity, there's always the chance in a tech contract that what we want to do goes further than where we are, and then it will be necessary to do a contract amendment. But I don't see that currently as an issue. Their expertise and their record of delivering in the past suggests that they are able to do that work. They gave very strong inferences about their ability to deliver on what we asked for, and so I feel like they have the tools to do it, plus HPD staff and our colleagues at OTI. So I feel like we have the tools to get what we need done. We have a pretty broad approach at trying to really push the envelope, and especially in the things that have been discussed so far and the feedback we've gotten from marketing agents, that is within the scope of what we want to do. And then the last piece of it that's always, it's both interesting and will continue to keep us sharp, is that the marketing agents and the owners are also developing new technology and engaging either through the lottery process or how they work with their re-rental work or just how they manage their buildings. We saw last year a couple of examples of new things that we learned that actually had interactions with the system that causes us to pause and figure out how to make sure that we can work with them to do what they can do, what they need to do to work well with applicants, but not create problems for our system. So that really put into focus the idea that as we build something, it needs to have the flexibility to incorporate new technology that the private market is also working on.
Thank you, Commissioner. So. And one more follow-up on the notice, the question of notice around outages. So in my office, I just asked my team, what is the waiting list? So right now, if someone walks into my office and they say, I want to apply for an affordable apartment, and we want to refer them to West Bronx Housing or KHCC or Kingsbridge Heights Community Center or REVA or UNHP, we're giving them appointments in July. And so if on July 13th there is an outage, it's really harmful. So can you commit to not having the site go out without, say, a business day's notice or 2 business days notice, so that we can flag for our partners and troubleshoot?
Two things. One, I'd like to talk a little bit about how the waiting list is formed and what that is versus the mini lottery, which has come up, and I'll let Emily talk about that. But in terms of notice, sometimes, usually if it's a planned outage, yes, we can commit to creating a timeline that makes sense. The example I gave before about a new technology that was from the private side working within our system and creating issues was something that was developing in the moment and created a problem that we had to shut down. So if it's something external affecting our system, it would be very hard to give advance notice, obviously. But if we have a planned outage, we can work on giving as much time as possible. It may be there's an emergency, we have to shut down, or we know that there is an update we want to make. We're going to give a nice long timeline. We also can talk more and think more about the appointment piece, because if there's an in-person interaction that relies on the system information, maybe there's another workaround, because as you pointed out, getting those appointments are very hard to schedule. So that should be on our list to continue to work through.
But you're going to support 1264, and it's going to be great, and we're going to expand access to in-person appointment help everywhere in the city.
And I would say that as I testified earlier, we're doing in-person support, with our senior centers. I recently visited one, the Sarah Roosevelt Garden Senior Center, working with their deputy director, who engages directly with seniors. We actually did a series of town halls just at senior centers last year, based on feedback we got from one specific senior town hall. So we just did Housing Connect seminars with DOF, us, DIFTA. We are also doing similar outreach and work with the Department of Veterans Services and the VA hospitals themselves. We're doing work with domestic violence shelters. We're doing a lot of this now, plus the neighborhood tech help initiative. So I would love to talk more about where the gaps are. I saw that there was a recommendation to be more involved with recreation centers. So there's an email out to the Department of Parks right now to see what we can be doing to work together there. Again, we did nearly 80 events last year, and that was a real highlight for us. We'd be happy to do more.
Yeah, it's not mine. Got it. Thank you. Okay. I'm gonna hold you to that. Okay, so back to your testimony, you mentioned some changes that you are making to make marketing smarter, you wrote, and you said. So when were some of these implemented? For example, the email blast that you described, emailing applicants when there's changes to their profile. When did you make those changes?
Starting when we built this version of Housing Connect in 2020, there's been a regular quarterly reminder that goes to applicants, notifying them, reminding them to keep their profile up to date. In the interim, if there are changes to Housing Connect that this doesn't happen often, but for some reason requires a person to update their profile. Let's say we've made a technical change. We want them to confirm something, then we'll email everybody and put a notice up on Housing Connect.
Okay, thank you. Great. I understand, as I mentioned earlier, that HPD is hosting roundtables with housing providers and marketing agents to improve the system. But how about similar roundtables with applicants, members of the public, to understand the user experience? Have you been doing that? And if not, can you commit to engaging regularly with applicants to update the system?
Yes, this is something we started talking about earlier this year. We just finished the latest round with the marketing agents, and next is impacted individuals. So we see this successful actually in our Section 8 work, where we have residents advised in that work, and we're going to implement a similar model in our Housing Connect work. And we'll obviously keep you up to date on how many we've done and who we've talked to. I will say that, again, we get hundreds, if not thousands, of individual inquiries. I get them directly, personally, and I find, just now, and we do take those seriously, and much of that actually goes into the scope of works we build, either the bi-monthly updates or this larger overhaul we're doing now.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Moving to the application process itself, on average, how many affordable housing applications does an individual development receive, or units, whatever metric makes most sense to explain that? And is it possible for you to share breakdown per borough?
Yes, we can share breakdown per borough. On average, there's about 16,000 applications per development. But again, it depends on the characteristics of the building, how big the building is, the unit distribution, the AMIs, the eligibility of the applicants. But best guess is about 16,000 applications per borough. In 2024, we received about 6 million applications, and we marketed about 10,000 units and over 300 lotteries.
Can you repeat those last numbers?
Sure. 2024, all lotteries received nearly 6 million applications, over 10,000 units marketed, over 300 lotteries. This does not include the homeless set-aside units, which are also part of this process, but separate.
Are you noticing more demand in particular boroughs or areas?
We have a local law report, Local Law 217 of 2019, that I'm looking at right now on my screen to show what we've reported on for applications by borough. And so I would encourage all of us to do that, and we can share that with you more directly. We do see a pretty even distribution across boroughs, generally speaking, with a fewer, in some cases, in Staten Island.
Got it. Is there a difference in wait time or a time to fill units by borough, by geography, that you've observed?
That's an interesting question. I don't have that data in front of us, but we will look into it and get back to you.
Thank you. For an affordable housing apartment, how long does the entire application process take from submission to move-in?
So there's two different ways we look at this. One, in our underwriting, the way we plan for it, we are looking at 12 to 15 months for lease up. But as you mentioned, the MMR has 109 days. So there are two different ways. You can either measure it from when the applicant is selected and we move through the process to get them in lease up, or from when the application period, the deadline ends, and we get to lease up. There's the other part of it that sometimes changes this is whether the unit itself is using low-income tax credits or not. There's an extra layer of review that goes into that. And that's actually some of the changes that you see in the marketing guidance that we put out yesterday or the day before are things that we worked on through conversations with Treasury and the IRS last year to limit the pieces of paper that are required, to work with syndicators and work with lenders to make sure that they could be comfortable with a different review threshold. So that's part of what we're trying to do to reduce that time, especially that 40 to 45 day period with marketing agents, where they have, they have a lot on their plate. They're doing great work, and they're trying to get through different applicants who may have different requirements.
Thank you, Commissioner. On the application, on the provider interface or the landlord interface portion, who has access to these documents? So, say I'm submitting, my 2020 tax returns or whatever. Who is able to see those documents on the back end?
It is just the approved marketing agents for that project that you are applying to in Housing Connect. Even though we provide the opportunity to save some documents on your own profile in Housing Connect, sort of in your document library if you wish, for easy access. When you are applying to a specific lottery and then notified that you've come up in the batch, you've come up on the lottery log, and now it's time to submit your documents to confirm you are in fact eligible, though that is when you choose or upload what you want to send, and that goes directly only to that project specifically.
Got it. So Treasury and IRS are not reviewing.
No.
IRS has the tax returns,
No.
but for other documents.
There is, to get just a little bit in the weeds, so because low-income tax credits have to be verified, in fact, occupants of those households go through annual compliance review. The marketing agent just has to make sure that those households are income eligible to be in a unit that's been funded with low-income tax credits. And so the handbook and the rules about how much paperwork you need and what the requirements lived on the federal level. So one of our early priorities going back to 2022 when we issued Housing Our Neighbors was to cut paper that we don't need, whether it's in the Section 8 application or in the marketing world. How hard do people have to prove that they're eligible for this apartment? How can we reduce it? One of the things was looking at the low-income tax credit compliance and seeing if they need as much paperwork as we're currently requiring. And that was the involvement on the federal level. Nothing at the intersection that we're talking about now involves that. That was just getting clarity on guidance that we can then give better guidance to our partners in housing.
Thank you. Switching gears to paper applications, according to the 2025 Marketing Handbook, the marketing agent may receive requests from an applicant to submit a paper application. How does HPD keep track that the marketing agent is sending an applicant a paper application? Do you know how many paper applications were added to Housing Connect in 2023 or 24?
So I can give the numbers, and I'll ask Emily to go through the process. But in 2023, there were 26,293 paper applications logged in Housing Connect, and 26,293 paper applications. And Emily, if you want to go through that.
Sure. So the process for requesting a paper application for an individual lottery Also, from that development also means that development maintains a log of all of the paper application requests that they receive, and the agencies can access or request that log of applications. That is to your question about how do we make sure that everybody who requests a paper application got one.
So are the marketing agents reporting to HPD?
That's right.
And at the user level, how do I know how to contact the marketing agent?
The contact information, are we talking about paper applications specifically still? The contact information for the marketing agent is on the lottery advertisement, so that you would see in a paper, through advocates or other services, online if you happen to be online, but certainly not necessarily. The contact information is on that public advertisement, and then the marketing agent responds with further contact information when they're providing you with your application and any follow-up correspondence through the mail. So you'll have more contact information directly from them.
So the marketing agent requires you to mail in your documents?
That's right. You can also drop off documents. That's a requirement we have as well, that has to be possible if that's easier or more convenient for folks.
Are all marketing agents based in New York City? Or they have addresses available?
Let me get back to you on that before saying definitively.
That has, by the way, just anecdotally, as I mentioned in my opener, that has not been my understanding. My constituents will always complain that they can't get a hold of paper applications, that they want to submit paper applications, but they are not able to. So I'd love to follow up offline about what is happening in those instances.
And just to add, so we actually, a couple of years ago, moved the marketing agent, the ability to market in this work. You now have to be a qualified marketing agent. So there's a review, there's an ability for us to hold people accountable. So yes, if people are hearing that kind of feedback, we would work closely with them to see if there's any issues that we're not aware of. But beyond that, we now have a way of being able to hold folks accountable.
Thank you. And sorry, last one on this. Who tabulates the paper applications? Who sort of enters them to where they need to be?
After the lottery deadline date, when paper applications are submitted, mailed in, then the marketing agent staff enters the paper applications into Housing Connect as part of a structured, organized event that the agency does virtual monitoring of to make sure that everything is going smoothly and that we can answer any questions or issues that may come up during that time. When all of the paper applications are entered into Housing Connect, they're grouped together with all the online applications for that same lottery. That's when the system applies a random log number to each one, and the batch processing and eligibility review begins.
Got it. So there's no different treatment in terms of preference for digital or paper applications. They're treated the same way?
That's correct.
That's right.
Thank you. What is a marketing agent? Who is a marketing agent? What are their duties and responsibilities?
That was such an energetic question.
Who are these people?
Who are these people? So marketing agents are they can be their own companies. They can be departments of housing developers, we find. Some have simultaneously work in property management or development. Others are specifically focused on this marketing process through the housing lottery. They're organizations that, as the commissioner mentioned, have to qualify by showing that they are trained and have capacity in running this lottery process. That means that they need to attend our fairly extensive HPD marketing agent training. that they are trained in low-income housing tax credit eligibility, which drives much of our income qualification criteria, as many know, and that they are trained in fair housing by a qualified provider. We take a look at that as part of the pre-qualification process, confirm that their facilities, their tools are accessible and up to our standards, and meeting those thresholds, then we would approve them to be on our marketing agent pre-qualified list.
Who is selecting the winners of the lottery? Is that the marketing agent, or is that happening at the agency?
It is both. The marketing agent is interacting directly with the applicant to do that income eligibility review, all of the detailed confirmation and documentation that's required, and then the agency is confirming that everything is in order before the applicant is offered the opportunity to sign a lease.
Right, but who does this? I think you said something insane, like a couple million applications for 10,000 units that went up for rental last year. Though that universe of applicants that were cycled through to get to those 10,000 winners, who selected that universe?
So if I understand correctly, the marketing agents are the ones reviewing the applicants. They are selecting the ones that are eligible, and we reviewed the file to make sure that they're eligible. The log is how we make sure that they've gone through in the appropriate order based on the log number they were issued after randomization at the top end. The first step is to go through the existing preference categories, whether it's municipal, mobility, the community preference, and then move into the general population. So those are the two tiers, but it's randomization, log number, cycle through, the applicants are selected, and then the file is reviewed for confirmation. We do a back-end audit now, and that way we make sure, and that way we make sure that things are done properly. But we have at any point the ability to request information or review things that are in process.
Got it. How many pre-qualified marketing agents are there?
There are about 63 right now on the list. We have about 63 on the list, and we have made changes to the process to streamline that work in case there are other qualified teams in the communities that want to be part of this.
Thank you. Are there language proficiency requirements for marketing agents?
There are language access requirements, so I can get back to you on the specifics, or they can be found in our marketing handbook. Happy to provide those, but an applicant needs to be able to access the services in the language that they speak or read or use, and marketing agents are responsible for providing that.
Thank you. And can you just, again, in terms of the user experience, can you highlight how today HPD marketing agents, how are you communicating with applicants to a lottery from the moment that they apply to onward, right, to the moment that the building is full or the units are filled?
So when you apply for an apartment, if you are selected as someone who may be a candidate for a unit, and there could be multiple people who are looked at per unit, there could be communications that come through the process, whether it's reminders to submit documentation, or if it moves even further, to set up a schedule to view the apartment, and then if it gets even further down the line, possibly complete the process and be selected for the lease signing. At the end of the process, there is an email that notifies applicants that we have finished a lottery. If they have not been selected, then they are encouraged to apply for other lotteries that are available at that time.
Got it. And so what are the intervals of communication from the marketing agent / HPD to?
Certainly. So it starts somewhat with the applicant's choices or preferences on if I'm an applicant on my Housing Connect account, I go to my account page and I choose what kind of notifications I want to get. And if I want to receive notifications about important milestones by email, if I want to be able to also do that by text message to my phone. So that's number one. The points at which which the system, but based on actions that we and marketing agents take through Housing Connect, notifies applicants, usually have to avoid overwhelming people, but with a million text messages and emails, but also make sure that people are getting the key information they need, especially when an action needs to be taken or a decision needs to be made. Notifications happen when your application has been submitted, so confirm that your application has been received. If it's time for you, if you've come up on the lottery log, right, your random number has come up in a batch, and it's time to confirm your eligibility by submitting documents, that's a notification. If you set up an in-person appointment or a phone appointment through the system, you'll get a notification related to that. If you are approved for the unit, certainly you get notifications about that and information about move-in. If you are not, and let's say it turns out that based on all of the detailed information you provide, your income does not qualify you for that unit, and you receive a rejection notice, you get a notification about that. You then have the opportunity to appeal if you disagree or have corrected information to provide. You get a notification when the response to your appeal has been processed with further instructions as well.
I guess, thank you, that's helpful. And these notifications, I understand from constituents and stakeholders that they do not occur via text message. So are there some marketing agents and in some cases where there are text messages and other cases where there aren't?
It wouldn't be by marketing agent, it would be in how each applicant's profile, how they've set up their account, what their preferences and contact information are in their account. So if they have provided a phone number for text messages and indicated that that's their preference, though that's when they would be getting the text message alerts as well.
Got it.
Often, many do it by email instead or in addition.
Got it, thank you. Got it, okay. Back a couple more questions on marketing agents. Are there any incentives to fill units faster that the agency provides to the marketing agents?
There's not a clear incentive. I would say the biggest incentives, given the length of time, is that marketing agents who are most efficient and effective are often marketing agents that we see are able to do more of the work in our industry. And then the second part of it is that there are two pain points. There are two places of suffering in the length of time for lottery. There are people who could be in housing faster, and there are owners who are delayed the ability to get the revenue they need to operate the building, or they need to reach a certain move-in rate to meet their LIHTC compliance. So there's a couple of financial incentives on the part of both the marketing agent, the owner that's hired them, and then of course the security and stability of the tenant in order to get this done as fast as possible. And I think really the root of much of the frustration that we hear about it.
Thank you. Do you have any sense internally at HPD whether there's difference in performance between marketing agents that are also developers or affiliated with development companies versus those that are independent?
This is information we're trying to get from our roundtables now. So we've just started this process of digging in, and we're working with marketing agents to understand what, when we look at the data, what's happening for them on their side. One anecdote I'll point, it's actually based in more fact than that. During COVID, the result of the last couple of years, the same kind of hiring challenges that we've had on our side of the real estate market, on leasing and property management, they have had as well. We've seen turnover on both sides of the work, so there is a lot of newer staff, and so that's the reason why we do bi-monthly trainings in order to get people up to speed. Additionally, there's a lot of new information and changes that we've made just in the last 2 years. So that's also something that we're watching to see if and this happens in change a lot. Once you start introducing a lot of new things, does that affect the performance of how quickly you can go? So we're looking at those two things and watching the data.
Thank you. Turning to the issue of re-rentals staying vacant for long periods of time, can you just walk us through the changes that were announced this week, and how these changes will be different from the mini lottery system that existed prior to this pilot?
So for re-rentals, there were two options. They could either do the mini lottery, which allowed individuals who wanted to continue to get opportunities from Housing Connect to get notices about units that were available citywide through a lottery that we would drawn up based on preferences that they listed for units that became available through re-rental. Owners and marketing agents also had the option of opting into a waiting list that drew up a waiting list based on those units that they had available and they can draw from over time. This newer option is focused on looking at the work that our marketing agents and owners have done in other ways that they market and put people into housing. So they still need to be compliant with the marketing guidelines. However, they are able to use other ways of marketing those apartments. They can use Street Easy, they can use waiting lists. Again, as long as they follow the transparency and fair access rules that's in marketing, in our marketing guidelines, they can move forward with that. That's going to be the case for HPD buildings. We will have a slightly different focus on HDC regulatory buildings because of other dynamics having to do with their regulatory agreement. So they can work through that process. We're also looking at trying to alleviate an issue around tenant in portfolio moves. So there was a lot of feedback that we got to try to allow for greater flexibility around that. There are buildings that will be able to lease up and bring people into apartments and then provide the file for that for review after the fact. There are some buildings that, due to the rules that we have in place around some of our incentive programs and our zoning programs and our regulatory agreements, will have to provide those files in advance, but we have committed to a rapid review of those files to make sure that they're eligible. Am I missing anything? And so those are some of the things that we've heard from the industry, being able to use their own listing strategy, being able to work within their own portfolio to address in-tenant moves, and then being able to have different ways of getting tenants into units if they are able to, based on the rules and regs that agree that exist. And then if they have to review it with us before, we commit to a rapid review of those applications.
Got it. So,
yes, and sorry, there's one.
During this re-rental waiver period process, we also have the resources that marketing agents may use outside Housing Connect will all be listed on a page on HPD's website, so that applicants can go to one place, see links to follow to access these resources, even though they may not be on Housing Connect specifically. That's important to us.
thank you. And the application itself, even if it's advertised on Street Easy or whatever company, it still has to be submitted through the Housing Connect portal?
No, for this waiver, it will move through the housing company marketing agent directly. They are responsible for maintaining the log, the paperwork necessary to prove that they have followed the marketing guidance, and that is something that we will be able to ask for upon request to make sure that people are compliant. At any point, if a marketing agent or owner is not compliant with these rules, the waiver can be rescinded.
And so how is the agency thinking about, right, there's always, in our conversations, there's always this trade-off between fairness and the amount of time that it takes to run through, whether it's a new building or the re-rentals. So what is your assessment in the pilot program of how fairness is going to continue to be ensured?
We've had pretty lengthy conversations with the marketing agents and owners. I think they understand, and many of them have been themselves longtime advocates for this kind of approach to housing. So, and they already have within their framework the rules and regs that they've built through either initial lotteries or rentals that we have. They will be applying that framework to an existing in-house system and being able to execute thereafter. They understand that the responsibility for to maintain that records is real, and that we would come in and check to make sure that that's happening. We do believe that maybe more importantly, the system that we built around re-rentals did not live up to our expectations about where that is. And there's some percentage of units that are not being rented up fast enough, which is bad for people. We need to get more heads on beds, as I said before. And we also need to allow these buildings that are having their own difficulties with meeting operating costs, the ability to get in rental income so they can provide quality housing for those tenants. And many of them have maintained a connection to people who have been on a waiting list, have met a certain set of criteria and rules. And so this is something we think is worth evaluating, and we believe we are working with partners who have done this already with us in one way, and will transition to this pilot with similar efficiency.
Thank you. Appreciate that. How will HPD, after the 1-year waiver, ensure that these units are better targeted to the relevant applicants and filled as quickly as possible?
So, the first thing I would say here is that whether it's our initial or our re-rental, the main objective is to make sure that all our units, which are funded by all New Yorkers, is available to everyone who's looking for housing. The people from Brooklyn pay taxes that build housing and fund housing in the Bronx. And so our first step is to make sure that we have a system that rests on these fair housing principles and access and mobility principles. The next bit of it is that in the way that we set up re-rentals, we've already had a way to try to get people more clear about the type of housing they would move to and what type of housing is the best fit for themselves and their family. That's actually a key part of doing fair housing and mobility work. And so we're going to be looking at that as a critical piece of making sure that we're matching people well. In addition to the updates to update your profile if your circumstances changes, so does your housing interest and what kind of re-rentals would be a good fit may change, and then also your status as to whether or not you are currently continuing to look for housing opportunities. Some people have transitioned into different situations. They've moved out of the city. They've maybe purchased a home. They are in a rental situation that they are not looking to leave. How do we get that information into the process so that when we are drawing that data down, we are matching people to housing opportunities anywhere in the city that's a better match for them?
Okay. Thank you. We'll continue to stay in touch about the timeline on all of these pieces. That's very helpful. Just running through my questions here. One moment.
I will have water. This is a good water break.
It's a good water moment. I'll flag for you that I'm going to ask about wait lists versus lotteries in general.
Okay.
But that's not my next question.
You want to do that? We go first.
I think I asked many of these. Housing ambassadors. Can you just walk us through how many housing ambassador partners are there, and what is their capacity to serve? Do you have numbers of applicants served on an annual basis?
I'm not sure if we have numbers of applicants served, so we'll come back to you on that, but there's about 50 organizations and 60 locations across the 5 boroughs. If individuals are looking to connect with a housing ambassador today, you can call 311 to get information. You can go on our website, and on our website you're able to look by zip code, and they'll find in your borough where your closest housing ambassador it is. Those are, they're largely volunteer organizations, but they're organizations trained by us. They're given a wealth of access to us to help triage the work that's happening in those neighborhoods. Additionally, there are not official housing ambassadors, but we have a network of senior centers. DIFTA's housing assistance work is, their folks are trained by us. We give them information. We're working regularly with them. We're working with, I mentioned earlier, the mayor's office to end gender-based violence. We're working with the Department of Veteran Services. We actually meet with them every several weeks to talk about housing opportunities. We work a lot with other city agencies, since housing is such a critical issue, and whether they're talking about parks issues or whether they're talking about open streets, there's always going to be someone who may have a housing issue. So we try to make our information available to them either digitally or in hard copies if requested. So there are lighter touch versions of that with the information. There are more formal engagement and training that may happen through the informal network with agencies that have housing specialists embedded there. Again, DVS and DIFTA, I think, are 2 good examples. And then there's our 50 organizations, 60 spots across the 5 boroughs.
Thank you. And just to clarify, you said many of these are volunteer organizations. Is there any level of financial support that HPD provides?
There is. Huge thanks to the council who supports the Ready to Rent program, which is a program that funds 9 organizations to do even more in-depth preparation on getting people ready to apply and be successful in the application process if they're selected.
So outside of the council's funding for 9 organizations, there's no other administration support?
Again, we support it with multiple staff members, both within, there's a housing ambassador.
But y'all don't give them money.
The housing ambassador, there are other ways that we support our housing groups. In this program, no, there isn't a dedicated expense stream for it.
Got it. Okay. That's an issue. Okay. I can confirm that is an issue. I mean, I have organizations like UNHP in my district that do incredible work. They work overtime. They're already operating on shoestring budgets, trying to do the best for a community that has so much need. And it would be very helpful if we could buttress what they do with financial supports for staffing. And also West Bronx Housing is here. My organizations are in the House. Northwest Bronx has been on top of you for the whole hearing. I don't know if you know that.
No, I feel the presence.
But there's just so much need. So I'd love to. Well, we have the bill, but we'd also just love to have a conversation, right? We want to get these things right. And often it helps to have legislation to spur us in the right direction of conversation. And just to make sure for the formality of asking this, we're also hearing intro number 1207 today by Councilmember De La Rosa, which is a bill that would act on DOB. Are you all representing their position today?
No, you would defer to DOB.
Okay. Does DOB have a position? Okay. Can you say that someone said in the administration, because he's not under oath, the DOB supports?
My understanding through my colleagues at City Hall is that my former agency, DOB, supports that bill.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Okay, last question, and I want to end on this bigger picture question. Over the years, I've heard a lot of advocacy or just thinking that we should actually consider as a city moving from a lottery system to a universal waiting list for these affordable housing developments. There's a lot of issues that have been flagged, inequity of access. We've talked about the digital divide. there's the perception of unfairness or randomness because it feels like it is a crapshoot in many ways, whether you're going to be selected. And there's even I can't tell you the number of conversations that I've had in my own community about, nah man, it's rigged, they put their own people in. And we have had these conversations, and I try to explain to them the process, but there's all these different reasons why there are certain advocates that have pushed for a waiting list versus a lottery approach. So can you share just what the thinking is? Why do we as a city conduct housing lotteries versus having a wait list like NYCHA?
Yeah, I think there's a lot there, but if one of the outcomes is to get someone into housing more quickly. And given how extensive the need and how long the list would be for waiting lists for affordable housing, it is in fact numerically more likely that being part of a lottery rather than waiting at the very long line of a waiting list will put you in a chance to have access to a housing faster. Every lottery, regardless of when you come on, whether it's a couple years ago or the day that you apply, there is an opportunity based on your eligibility, etc., that you can be into housing. We have people who have applied for lottery and then several months later they're able to get into housing. We do unfortunately also have people who have applied for lottery and then they have waited a long time for their opportunity. We've seen with other wait lists that there have been people on wait list for a very long time and they have not had the opportunity or even a chance at being able to move that position any further. Additionally, some of the feedback that we've gotten on our re-rental program, for instance, is that waiting lists can go stale. And if you don't have a way of keeping that fresh, it can be very difficult. However, the strategies to keeping that fresh can also sometimes inadvertently remove people who did not want to be removed. And so you run the risk of doing that as well. The lottery program, and it's something that, we talk to cities all the time who are looking and actually replicating the system that we have. The lottery process allows individuals at any given moment to tell us at a point of time that they're ready for housing, that this is what they need, and that we give each individual a fair shot wherever they live in the city to have access to housing wherever it is in the city. We do employ a waiting list in certain situations. It's a tool that we have available, but we think it's more appropriate in the re-rental universe than it may be in the initial. That being said, we are open to having all of these discussions about thinking about what tools work. We've heard some of this feedback as well, and we're trying to study some people who have better math understanding than I are thinking about how do we put people in the best position to succeed.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much. My colleagues are online, I promise.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Commissioner, members of HPD's leadership team. This is an important conversation. I hope you can have, I'm looking at you, Nicole, I'm looking at you, Matt. I hope that you can have folks stick around to hear testimony from our community members and organizations that have been doing great advocacy.
And if I can,
I don't know your name yet, but
yes.
if you can stick around too.
I do want to introduce to everyone here in the audience and to the council, Mia Perez, who is our new city legislative deputy director and point person, and has already worked very much with communities. We're looking forward to her helping us do it better at HPD.
Mia? Welcome, Mia. Look forward to working with you. Thank you. We're going to take a 5-minute recess while I check on my child. And then we're going to, or Nicole and I will check on my child, and then we'll resume. Hello, everyone. I'm happy to report that Yaya is doing just fine. Okay, I now open the hearing for public testimony. I remind members of the public that this is a formal government proceeding and that decorum shall be observed at all times. As such, members of the public shall remain silent at all times. The witness table is reserved for people who wish to testify. No video recording or photography is allowed from the witness table. Further, members of the public may not present audio or video recordings as testimony, but may submit transcripts of such recordings to the Sergeant at Arms for inclusion in the hearing record. If you wish to speak at today's hearing, please fill out an appearance card with the Sergeant at Arms and wait to be recognized. When recognized, you will have 2 minutes to speak on Housing Connect, the topic of today's hearing, including the following legislation, intros number 1207. If you have a written statement or additional written testimony you wish to submit for the record, please provide a copy of that testimony to the Sergeant at Arms. You may also email written testimony to testimony@council.nyc.gov within 72 hours of this hearing. Audio and video recordings will not be accepted. With that, I'd like to call the first panel, which I definitely have handy. Okay. So first, Ariel Hirsch from UHAB, Humelia Abramson from UNHP, Brendan Mitchell from UNHP. Okay. And whoever can begin when ready.
Is this better? All right. Hello, Chair Sanchez and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Jamelia Abramson, and I'm the Director of Programs at UNHP and part of a Bronx advocacy group called AHORA, Affordable Housing Opportunities Right Away, that has been working with the council member. This group is made up of apartment seekers, concerned local affordable property managers, and nonprofit service providers. You will hear from a couple of them today, here in the room and in the Bronx virtually, and others will make sure that they submit their testimony in writing because they couldn't take the time off from work. This group came together in 2022 out of frustration around New York City Housing Connect, even after the 2.0 remodeling. University Neighborhood Housing Program has been working with many of these applicants, and we've submitted over 13,000 lotteries since then. Because the main reason people come through our door is a need for permanent affordable housing. We've offered one-on-one sessions, workshops, webinars to help apartment seekers navigate the Housing Connect portal. Even with this hyper awareness in this particular program, only 36 applicants have moved into a Housing Connect apartment since we've been helping people over the years. And as we like to say, they've won that golden ticket. So only 36 families have won the golden ticket out of those 13,000 lotteries we've submitted. That means that around 80% of Housing Connect units require income that are higher than what the majority of Bronxites earn. For these reasons, after serving as a Housing Connect ambassador and pouring a lot of resources, we ended our formal agreement with HPD. And even though we continue doing that work, we do it very targeted with Bronx residents. Today, I commend the councils for the attention on this issue and urge bold community-centered reforms to ensure that the system truly serves low-income New Yorkers, especially those in boroughs like the Bronx, where incomes remain significantly below citywide averages. In the Bronx, where the median income of applicants we serve is below $25,000, the many so-called affordable units remain far out of reach. We call on the council to focus on 4 key areas. One is to mandate deeper affordability, looking at requirements that reflect Bronx wages. 2, better communication and transparency between agent and applicants. 3, additional funding for housing ambassadors and ready-to-rent providers. 4, a dashboard that the community organizations can see and track the lotteries that we've been submitting. So how do we do those 4 things? And you guys, I don't know how much time I have, but I'm gonna continue. The current income.
I have to say it though, so you may continue.
Okay, thank you. The current income band used in Housing Connect lottery is often too high for Bronx residents. So we are urging the council to look at and prioritize 0 to 30% and 30 to 50% AMI bands. Right now, if you looked, as the commissioner said earlier from HBD, there's 28 lotteries on the portal, but there's only 3 that are for Bronx applicants, and most of our clients want to remain living in the Bronx. They work there, they worship there, so they want to stay there. And the starting income for 2 of those lottery is $83,000, which is not affordable for the people we serve. Even if they're doubling up or tripling up. If we look even at Bruckner Boulevard, which is one of the lotteries currently on the portal, which is a 274 unit development, which is great, with an income starting at $19,372, but there's only 24 units within the 30% AMI. So only 24 families will be selected across the entire borough, and most likely our applicants would not receive a very low log number. So we joke in the office that to win that golden ticket, you have to put a lot of prayers and a lot of good energy to make sure that you get a low log number enough that it's 24. Number 1 through 24s are going to be the ones that are going to be first elected. So this system is not really working for the people we serve. We also demand better communication and transparency. There's a lot of emails that I know the HPD has recently implemented in communicating with applicants, but those emails are being filled up with spam messages on lotteries that are not fit for our clients. So they're getting frustrated with the process even further. If I'm getting an email for a lottery that begins with an income band of $83,000, I feel like people are feeling that it's a joke, that the city is laughing at them because they are never going to achieve that income. So these emails should be personalized.
If you can conclude,
Yes.
sorry, if you can summarize.
I would summarize. And then, so better communication, additional funding. Right now, the Ready to Rent program is serving several organizations, but it's only one organization receiving the money, which is Arriva, to my understanding. So spreading more money towards that. And then we need a Housing Connect system that lives up to its name, one that truly connects New Yorkers to those that need permanent and affordable housing. So thank you for the time, and we look forward to further conversation.
Thank you so much.
Is that okay? Yeah? How's that? All right. Thank you, Councilmember Sanchez, and your entire team for engaging with us on this issue. My name is Brendan Mitchell. I'm the Director of Real Estate at University Neighborhood Housing Program in the Bronx. Among other things, UNHP is a nonprofit community developer and operator of affordable housing. I wanted to use this time to share about our struggles with the housing lottery from the perspective of a nonprofit developer. For the last 4 years, we've had very large units with very low rents sitting vacant through a pandemic and a housing crisis. This is not because these units are in troubled buildings. It's not because they're too small or overpriced, or for lack of trying on the part of our various marketing agents, but because the housing lottery in its current form could not connect interested parties with the housing we have available. As a result, quality units sat empty for as long as 18 months while we tried to fill them through the lottery. Our largest project is Reclaim HDFC, which is 10 buildings in total, spanning from Southern Boulevard to University Avenue, and was named appropriately, as all 10 of these buildings were once vacant in the 80s until they were reclaimed by the people of the Bronx through community development. All 10 of these buildings were gut rehabbed in the 90s and have received various upgrades as needed over the years. These buildings have larger than average units compared to what we see being built today, and lower rents as they have been rent stabilized with relatively low turnover. These are not the buildings you might expect to see when you log into your Housing Connect account to apply for new construction projects. They do not have elevators or bike rooms. They do not have free Wi-Fi or, in many cases, laundry rooms. They do have an average tenancy across 265 units of over 25 years and an average rent of roughly $1,100. Our regulatory agreement requires that these units be rented to families making anywhere from 40 to 60% AMI, with 27 units reserved for homeless families. We like to believe that most people remain in these units for so long because although our buildings may...
You may conclude.
Thank you. I'll be quick. Because although these buildings may not have the amenities or architectural frills of new construction, they do provide decent quality housing at an affordable price to low and moderate income families in the community. The applicants that we've consistently been connected with through the lottery for re-rentals have been uninterested in moving to the Bronx, disappointed that they are being selected for a building that was built over 100 years ago, unhappy or physically unable to move into a building that does not have an elevator. By contrast, every single day, we have low-income people in the community walking into our management office asking to rent these units and calling the super for information on how to rent them, and in addition to the people that Jamelia works with at the Northwest Bronx Resource Center, our direct services arm, looking to rent these units because they live and work in the community. We also get calls from other nonprofit housing providers looking to place existing tenants in larger units, looking to checkerboard while renovating for existing tenants, or relocating existing tenants due to a fire or a flood. Working together with these partner organizations in creating, preserving, and maintaining affordable housing is how we get this job done. This is why we believe that nonprofit organizations should be permanently exempt from the re-rental lottery requirement moving forward. The delays involved with filling our vacant units have hurt our projects financially at a time when buildings like this are up against rapidly rising costs and historically low collection rates. We are grateful that New York City HPD has heard our concerns and recently announced a one-year pause on requiring re-rentals to be filled through the lottery. This will provide us much-needed financial relief in the short term as we can quickly fill our units with income-qualified tenants, like we have for 30 years prior to this requirement. We look forward to participating in discussions with our agency partners around re-rentals and the lottery over the next year and welcome any changes that allow us to fill our empty units quickly and efficiently. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Chair Sanchez, members of the committee. Good to see you. I'm Ariel Hirsch. Thanks for the opportunity to testify. I'm the Director of Policy and New Projects at UHAB. For 50 years, UHAB has empowered low to moderate income residents to take control of their housing and become homeowners in the buildings where they already live. I'm going to submit larger written testimony, and so I'm going to go over like a really quick summary of points, and I'll try to keep it brief. I might go over, but we'll see. And we want to really appreciate the attention to this topic for this hearing, but also wanted to call attention to one aspect of HPD marketing and the Housing Connect process that I don't think we've talked about too much today, which is the subset of Housing Connect that works for homeownership and specifically HDFC cooperatives, which are the vast majority of buildings that we serve, and also to help develop and create, especially with this waiver process, which includes re-rentals as well as resales. I think that this is a really good opportunity for us to have this conversation. The sort of broad scope here is that most HDFC cooperatives, around like 80% of the 1,200 in the city, don't have any requirements to market using Housing Connect. They use other means. They use a known broker who understands HDFC cooperatives in compliance, perhaps with their monitor and their property manager. UHAB has a marketing and match program that works very well. And so we know that there are other ways to do this fairly and to do this in compliance with all laws and regulations. There are also some HDFC cooperatives that now have this requirement because of their regulatory agreement, and there are a subset of new HDFC cooperatives that are being created through programs like ANCP, Open Door, TPT, that will have these requirements going forward. Generally, for buildings that are coming out of those programs, newly created HDFC co-ops, we find that the issues with Housing Connect mostly have to do with the development process and have, it's a little messy, there's some coordinating that needs to happen, but for the most part, things work smoothly. I'm at time, so may I continue?
Please conclude, yeah.
Thank you. Where we see real issues are for resales, as I think has been illuminated a lot during this hearing. There is that one lump category for, when you're creating your application, you check a box and you say, I would be open to re-rentals. That box also includes resales for homeownership units throughout the 5 boroughs, which is a huge category. And so the issues that you are well aware of in having marketing agents working on re-rentals go through, thousands and thousands of applicants are also true for resales of HDFC cooperative apartments in the Bronx, in Upper Manhattan, in Brooklyn, and it is just not necessarily set up or equipped to handle these applications. Housing Connect also doesn't collect critical information around asset information for homeownership to understand whether an applicant has sufficient savings for closing costs and down payment. And it doesn't screen for folks who are affirmatively selecting to participate in an HDFC cooperative, which is something that requires participation. It requires, maybe stepping up to be on the board one day, and requires some education and training. We want an affirmative sort of pool of folks who have self-selected to do this and are interested in participating, interested in homeownership, but the current system that we have is not getting us those folks and also is not helping those folks find the housing that they want and deserve. I also want to illuminate that the mini lottery process that's been in place for the last 5 years has not worked for a single resale of an HDFC cooperative in all 3 examples that we have worked on, and I believe those are the only 3 examples that have taken place. It is not possible, and each HDFC that went through this process needed to exhaust a full 6-month attempt to market through the mini lottery with HPD before they were granted a waiver to go to the private market and work with their marketing agent to do this. It's added cost, it's added time, it's added headache, and where there are hardships, someone needs to sell quickly for whatever reason, or you have a vacant unit that's owned by the HDFC cooperative where they're not getting that essential maintenance to keep a building running on slim margins. This really makes a difference. And so just to say that with this opportunity to really rethink Housing Connect and our HPD marketing system, I want to call attention to the specific needs and challenges of homeownership and HDFC cooperatives and keep this conversation open. Thanks.
Thank you. In those 3 examples, what were you issued? Were there waivers issued by the agency?
Yes, there was a waiver issued by the agency after about 6 months of attempting to run the mini lottery through the process that was set up that yielded no qualified or willing applicants for either of the 3 units that was attempted.
Goodness. Thank you. Thank you for that. And I also just want to thank UNHP. I want to thank the members of Aura for meeting with me in 2022, for highlighting this conversation or this problem. I think I understand that the article that was written about the issue of re-rentals and the massive delays was one of the most highly viewed and clicked on articles in Gothamist in sort of recent memory. And so it just highlights that your experience with re-rentals sitting vacant for 16 months at a time is just one that frustrates New Yorkers and just highlights, the problems, the challenges with Housing Connect. And I do want to highlight, Jumelia, for your points about that mismatch, the deep mismatch between the level of subsidy that the city of New York and the federal government and everywhere in the state government, the level of support that we're subsidizing for affordable apartments is just doesn't get us anywhere near the affordability levels that we need to reach members of our community, right, up in the West Bronx. And so, we have been trying to push the administration, HPD, to be more creative in getting to those lower tiers of affordability. Of course, this council passed the voucher legislation that would provide more vouchers to low-income people, and that's part of the solution. Also, HPD Capital getting deeper. But I just want to welcome your partnership. We know this is a problem of dollars and cents, right? We partner in the city of New York with the private market and nonprofits, but also the private market, to make ends meet for buildings. And so to get more affordable, to get more deeply affordable, we have to put more money in. And so I just want to emphasize that for the public, and also welcome your partnership on how do we build toward, applying the right amount of pressure to get that outcome that we need of more affordable apartments. But thank you so much for your work on this. This wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for all of the work that you put into Housing Connect. Thank you. I'd now like to call on the second panel, Joshua Stevenson from West Bronx Housing, Eric Urquiza from West Bronx Housing, and Howard Slatkin from Citizen Housing and Planning Council.
There you go.
Hey.
Hey, good morning. Good morning, council members. My name is Eric Urquiza. I'm a housing specialist and community coordinator at West Bronx Housing. I've helped hundreds of people in the Bronx apply for Housing Connect through Housing Connect. The system is not working the way it should for our clients. Many clients don't have computers, don't use emails, and can't reset passwords. They change phone numbers or emails, then they get locked out. When I try to help, the system thinks it's a duplicate account and blocks them. There's no real person to talk to. A text alert or a helpline will help a lot. I've met seniors who worked their whole lives, pay taxes, raise families, and now they're sleeping in share rooms because rent is too high. Their Social Security isn't enough to live in New York City. They can't just leave this. This is the only home they know. For many, Housing Connect is the only hope for decent housing. I can't pay my rent now, but when I stop working, Social Security won't be enough for me either. I worry about that, and I know others do too. We need a system that's easier to use with text alert, live help, and something that really works for the people it's meant to serve. Thank you for your time and for your standing up for housing in our communities.
Thank you.
All right. There we go. Okay, I timed it out. It's about 2.5 minutes. All right.
Allow it.
Good morning, afternoon, or good afternoon to the members of the New York City Council's Committee on Housing and Buildings and Chair Sanchez. My name is Joshua Stevenson. I'm the Executive Director of West Bronx Housing and Neighborhood Resource Center. So we're a very small organization that provides one-on-one, in-person, bilingual English and Spanish language services to about 1,200 Bronxites per year. That's with a staff of 2.5 full-time caseworkers. Setting aside the issue of affordability, which a lot, much smarter people than me have talked about already, I'm here to talk about how prohibitively difficult the Housing Connect process itself is and why my organization no longer regularly provides Housing Connect assistance despite doing about 500 applications in the last 3 years. Of course, unless I get a referral from a council member. Most of our clients don't really know how to use computers. They barely know how to use their phones. I can't tell you how many times I've logged into their account and seen them miss 4 to 5 opportunities because they just didn't know. And believe me, I've tried to show them and teach them. We heard HPD say that they send out thousands of text messages. Our clients are receiving thousands of text messages just from scams, right? These are senior citizens. What that means is if we created 500 Housing Connect accounts in 3 years, we'd have to log into 450 separate accounts every 2 weeks just to make sure they don't miss opportunities. What I believe would make our job far easier is a provider portal to which we could link a new Housing Connect account that we just created instead of having to log into dozens or hundreds of separate accounts every 2 weeks. Attachment 1 of my written testimony gives an example of a landing page for a current client. In this specific example, all 7 of the completed applications were rejections. 3 because they missed the window of opportunity to upload documents, 4 because there were no more units. Attachment 2 of my testimony is admittedly hideous, cut and paste using old school Windows, paint.exe, so don't judge me too hard, of how I imagine a landing portal could look like. Another glaring issue is the refined search function. So an example, if I filter using the following parameters: 2-person household, 2 bedrooms, max rent of $3,500. The first selection is 111 Willoughby Apartments. This 2-bedroom lottery is, the 2-bedroom rent for this lottery is $4,347. I just set the parameters for $3,500. What's going on? Why is this filtering apartments for which I don't qualify and or can't afford? So attachment 3 is a screenshot from Housing Connect of the first 2 lotteries that pass that same filter. Neither of them qualify. So absent any major changes in the online process, my organization simply doesn't have the capacity to help with Housing Connect, which is truly a shame because the number one question we get from phone calls and walk-ins is, hey, ¿me puedes conseguir un apartamento? Hey, can you help me get an apartment? So with that being said, thank you for your time. I also want to thank Council Members Dinowitz, Feliz, and Chair Sanchez for their continued support of West Bronx Housing. You know, we've worked with each of your offices to save dozens of people from outright eviction. It's an honor to work with each of you and your offices.
Thank you so much, Josh.
Good afternoon. Chair Sanchez and council members, I'm Howard Slatkin. I'm Executive Director of Citizens Housing and Planning Council, a housing and planning policy research organization. I'll try to give the best 1 minute and 50 seconds of my written testimony, which is submitted in its entirety. CHPC is in the midst of a research project about the range of approaches to matching residents with affordable housing units used in other global cities. We'll look forward to publishing this research, but I'll share some key takeaways of relevance. In defining a fair and efficient system, every city strikes a different balance between speed and choice. It's really important to put people in homes quickly as well as fairly. These goals relate in complex ways, and policy often strikes different balances in different situations, as well as over time as cities adapt their processes to evolving needs and conditions. One of the things that we have found is that rigidity and proceduralism pose risks, not just because of the wide range of individual circumstances the allocation process in New York City in particular needs to address, and the incredible depth of need for affordable housing and the limited supply of units to meet it. But also, I'm going to move forward. The long lease-up times that we have identified in our brutal bureaucracy analysis of the lease-up process, as well as the delays in re-rentals recently documented by others here, highlight the need for continuous monitoring and improvement of the process, as well as the need for an agile and adaptable process for administering this process. So our recommendations here are that the lottery procedure should not be fixed in law, but that the council should, as it is doing today, and we appreciate this, use its oversight authority to ensure clarity of goals for the lottery and allocation process, the measurement of results, and that there's an ongoing practice of monitoring and improving upon the process. Thank you.
Thank you so much. HPD, I think it's really cool that Josh actually drew this out for you, so please, please bring that to, what are they called? I already forgot the name of the vendor for Housing Connect. Thank you. So just, Josh, and I wonder your feedback on what works in terms of breaking through. You know, our constituents receive many scam texts, many scam calls. Some folks won't understand the difference between WhatsApp and a text message. They'll never check the text message, but they will check WhatsApp. You know, there's so many different examples of the digital divide and how it gets in the way of notifications, right? So what do you think is the best way to reach people?
Honestly, I think it would be a provider portal, because that way I'd be able to log in and then actually call them myself. We could call them ourselves and let them know, hey, you need to come in because we just got a notification that you need to upload documents. We are a trusted agency in our neighborhood. Our clients usually answer our phone calls, but a lot of times, because they're getting so many texts, because they're getting so many calls, they just don't see it because they're getting so overwhelmed. So I really think a provider portal where we could actually, instead of responding, we could actually preempt the issue, because one thing that happens a lot is a client will find out on the last day that they have to upload documents, that it's the last day, and they'll come in without an appointment. You said your office has a wait list until July. People just show up. So do we. But people will show up on the last day, and we can't help them.
Thank you. That's really helpful. And I really appreciate your comments about how making fixes to the interface would also allow you to have the capacity to serve more people, because there's just, the filters are just not working. Howard, thank you so much. Good to see you. Taking your comment to heart on the details of the lottery procedures should not be fixed in law, right? They also shouldn't be fixed in contract, because my understanding is that the contract that we have, or that the city has with the Housing Connect provider, also limits what changes we can ask for and what upgrades. And so I certainly welcome you to share feedback with us, share feedback with HPD about how to write the goals and the goals for these procedures and processes in a way that would allow HPD to write contracts the best way also.
I would love to be able to provide sort of more substantive response to that, but I think you've highlighted a really important issue, which is that the procurement process that the city has to use to procure tech services to do these kinds of things, it's I am not familiar with the details of this contract, this vendor, or any of those things, but from my experience in years in city government, which ended just a couple of years ago, these things can be really challenging, and it's having a tech platform that needs to change and adapt and evolve over time is not the traditional model for how those contracts work, and I think it's worth looking into ways to make that model of adaptable tech work better for this purpose.
And one question that I was trying to get HPD to respond to, but I don't think I quite got them to, is, or maybe I didn't ask it well, but this question about, where do you have the talent? Do you have the talent in-house to, have web developers, have designers, user experience experts, that sort of thing? Do you have that inside of an agency, inside of city government, or do you contract it out? And if you contract it out, how do you write the document that's going to govern the relationship in a way that's flexible enough?
Yeah, I certainly would not presume to answer in terms of like the talent that HPD themselves have, but from my own experience, and it was in years at the Department of City Planning, where actually the agency had done some really innovative things with creating a new tech development team. It is a very, in terms of the staffing and labor market challenges that exist for city government in general, it's like the most challenging corner is keeping the tech workforce sort of stable and secure and fully staffed. And I think it poses a particular challenge for agencies to try to do those kinds of things in-house, I think, in this moment and even in ordinary times. So I think it's worth looking at the procurement process as well as what is the staffing component that's sort of a permanent agency fixture, and how much of this process is done through procurement.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your testimony. The next panel is Milagros Salazar, Brendan Cheney, and Jeffrey Gardner.
Good afternoon. My name is Brendan Cheney. I'm the Director of Policy and Operations at the New York Housing Conference. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. And Chair Sanchez, I want to especially thank you for your leadership and your advocacy here. We always appreciate your advocacy around housing issues, and especially today, sort of highlighting issues to Housing Connect, so we really appreciate it. So I'm going to start by talking about the three pieces of legislation. We very much support the goals of the legislation. We really want to see a single portal that has all affordable housing and re-rentals on the portal. We really want to see a portal that has notifications, and we really want to, and we do support a robust housing ambassadors program, but we are concerned about legislating these three things. We're concerned about unfunded mandates, especially in an environment where federal housing funding is really under threat. And then for 1264 especially, I think just concerned about legislating something that the Housing Connect portal isn't prepared to do effectively right now. But obviously very much support the goals of those three bills and really appreciate your leadership on that. So look, Housing Connect should provide transparency and access to affordable housing, but right now, between the functionality that exists and bureaucratic hurdles, it's not meeting those goals. It's leaving units vacant for months at a time. We appreciate HPD's willingness to grant waivers for re-rentals right now. It's as you've heard, and as you've heard before this, the re-rentals are causing a lot of long vacancies and revenue issues for the providers. So we appreciate HPD's pause on this while they're working on a longer-term fix. As they work for a longer-term fix and longer-term solutions to those issues, we request that the changes prioritize speedy and efficient re-rentals and really increase the capacity of the portal to meet all the goals that we really want to see Housing Connect have. And so I think, just to wrap up, that over the next years they're looking to make those changes. We want to make sure those changes really do deliver Housing Connect that we all want to see. So thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Muy buenas tardes, estimada concejal Sánchez y miembros del Comité de Vivienda. Gracias por la oportunidad de testificar hoy. Mi nombre es Milagros Salazar, soy parte del grupo Ahora. El día de hoy he venido para compartir mi testimonio con Housing Connect sobre mi experiencia al aplicar el proceso de elegibilidad, la asequibilidad para obtener un apartamento para personas de bajos ingresos como yo. Vivo y trabajo en el Bronx por más de 10 años. Estoy en Housing Connect desde el 2017 y apliqué a más de 63 loterías dentro de mi ingreso, y después de muchas aplicaciones sin respuesta, obtuve un apartamento. Soy una de las pocas personas con suerte que la preferencia comunitaria me ayudó mucho. Soy trabajadora de salud en el hogar como Home Health Aide y mi ingreso es bajo. Regularmente no soy elegible a los rangos que están apareciendo en Housing Connect. Para una persona como yo que gana entre 18 y 20 mil dólares, entre 17 y 20 la hora, con 2 pacientes tendría que trabajar más de 50 horas a la semana para poder llegar al estándar que se exige. Entonces, no son verdaderamente asequibles para las personas de bajos ingresos que trabajamos duro y merecemos tener un hogar digno para nuestras familias. Gracias a Dios y a UNHP, que siempre nos ha ayudado en los procesos complejos y exigentes, en diciembre del 2023, después de 6 años, conseguí por fin mi apartamento. En el momento estoy pagando $1,245 al mes por mi renta. Estoy aquí para ser la voz de todos los que están pasando por este proceso que también necesitan su hogar. El día de hoy quiero solicitar la ayuda de las entidades aquí presentes para que mejore el proceso y sean realmente asequibles para las personas de bajos ingresos que también merecen tener un hogar digno. Antes de obtener mi apartamento, tenía ansiedad de no perderme un correo electrónico de Housing Connect y obtuve 2 oportunidades de entrevista de selección que me desanimaron. Fui a dos entrevistas. Una, el primer edificio, que eran parte de 3, un proyecto de 3 edificios, uno al lado del otro. El primer edificio, luego de recopilar todos los requisitos y documentación, me fue negada.
Ms. Sanchez, you want me to translate from now?
You have her testimony, right? Why don't we let her finish and then you can do yours?
Perfecto. Perfecto.
Así nos concentramos, ¿verdad?
Sí, perfecto. El primer edificio, luego de recopilar todos los requisitos y documentos, me fue negado por mis ingresos. En el momento en que tuve la entrevista, faltaban solo $100 para llegar al rango que ellos tenían. Aún demostrando que podía pagar la mensualidad de este apartamento, porque la renta era de $550, un 30% de ingresos requeridos, yo pagaba $700 en una habitación mensualmente por varios años, y aún teniendo todas las pruebas de esto, se me fue negado. Luego, al terminar el tercer edificio de este mismo proyecto, se comunicaron conmigo para hacerme saber que si estaba interesada aún en tener un apartamento, porque tenían apartamentos disponibles en el cual calificaba por mis ingresos. Rápidamente recopilé todos los documentos, pedí el día libre en el trabajo para ir al banco, llamar a mi empleador, buscar mis impuestos y todos los talonarios. Pero nuevamente, cuando revisaron todo, su respuesta fue que no calificaba esta vez porque donde vivía no tenía prioridad comunitaria. Me sorprendió esta situación porque en el edificio de al lado no pasaba esto. Me sentí frustrada, deprimida y confundida. Se supone que las personas que verifican el perfil de cada aplicante ya saben dónde vivo, sus ingresos y demás. Luego de verificar tu solicitud para ser rechazada por lo mismo que tienes en tus datos, me hizo cuestionarme sobre la claridad del proceso. Un porcentaje muy bajo de las loterías son menores de $40,000. Estos procesos son largos, no tan claros, llenos de burocracia, y por lo regular son 10 días para recopilar los documentos, cuando en la mayoría de las oficinas tardan más tiempo para entregar estos formularios. Además, hay que saber manejar la tecnología, porque todo es mediante página web. Hay que subir documentos al portal de Housing Connect, enviar correos, y muchas veces no todos tienen la facilidad de manejar la tecnología. Por último, donde vivo actualmente no es perfecto, es mixto. Muchas unidades fueron rentadas a personas con subsidios o vouchers por problemas mentales. Esto hace que el edificio sea difícil de manejar por la seguridad y el desorden. Necesitamos un sistema de vivienda que haga honor a su nombre, uno que realmente conecte a los neoyorquinos, especialmente a los más vulnerables, con opciones de vivienda reales, permanentes y asequibles. Porque de lo contrario, las familias de bajos ingresos, como las tantas en el Bronx, no tendremos dónde vivir y sin esperanza de un futuro digno. Gracias por la oportunidad de compartir mi historia y hablar sobre la necesidad de simplificar este proceso.
Muchísimas gracias. Ahora él lo va a leer en inglés.
Before I translate, I just want to clarify something quick. We'll tell you only like a second, okay? Just before. Cuando hablas aquí, te faltaban $100, ¿no? Es para llegar al rango que ellos exigían, ¿no?
Exacto.
Okay, o sea, la cantidad.
De mi income anual.
¿Cuánto dinero exigían aproximadamente? ¿Cuánto?
Un aproximado de...
Sí.
Porque en ese momento...
No te preocupes, yo les explico, está bien.
Okay.
Okay. Hello, Ms. Sanchez and members of the Housing Committee here in New York. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to let me to testify today. My name is Milagros Salazar. I'm member of the group called Ahora. Ahora means now in Spanish. And in the day of today, I have come to share my testimony with Housing Connect about my experience submitting the application for this program. This is the eligibility process, the accessible process in order to obtain an apartment for people with low income like I am. I live and I work in the Bronx for more than 10 years. I'm member of Housing Connect since the year 2017. The moment before I did that, I applied for around 63 lotteries in total, according to my earnings, according to my yearly earnings. And after I submitted all these applications, I never got any responses. Finally, after I was doing all this, I obtained my own apartment. And one of the few people who was lucky about this. And the reason is that it's like a community preference that was in the area where I was living that helped me. Ana, ¿Es una trabajadora de salud? ¿Trabajas como doctora o enfermera?
Cuidado de...
Yes, I'm working as a health worker. I'm working as a home health. And as you know, my earnings are low because of my job. And I'm working regularly in different runs since disappeared in Housing Connect. Okay, con dos pacientes tienes que trabajar más de 50 horas a la semana. I was working with 2 patients in the home health agency, and I was working for more than 50 hours per week in order to be able to afford things, and in order for me to achieve the income that they were requesting for me to have in order to have the apartment. This is not really to be accessible for somebody. This is not right for people that have a low income like me. And we are working very hard for a better future. Okay, pensemos en un lugar digno para nosotros, o sea, un lugar digno. So we deserve to have a deserved housing for people like us and also for our families. I'm saying thanks to God and thanks to UNHP that they are helping me with the complex process, and this processes are very demanding for all the people who are applying. My monthly rent of the apartment I have now is $1,245, and the days like today, ¿crees que no te pagaron por venir aquí hoy? Lo que quieres decir, ¿no? And days like today, I came here to testify, and I'm not getting paid for the day of today, only for me to come in to testify. In December of the year 2003, after 6 years, I was able to obtain my first apartment, and I'm here to be the voice for the ones who are going through the same process I went through, and the ones who need a house like the day of today, and who wanted to request help with these entities. Discúlpame, cuando quieres hablar de entidades, ¿a qué significas exactamente entidades?
Las que están aquí.
And the entities that are present today, so they need to improve the process so we can have more affordable homes and affordable apartments here in New York City, especially for people who have a low income like me, and who deserves to live in a good home and in a decent home. Okay, before obtaining my apartment, before getting this apartment, I suffered from a lot of anxiety. Y miraba los correos electrónicos de Housing Connect. And I was paying attention every day to receive an email message from Housing Connect. And I obtained 2 opportunities to do selection interviews, but I was very disappointed and I was very discouraged. fui, entonces entregué un edificio por parte de un proyecto de 3. ¿Qué quiere decir con proyecto de 3?
Que era
It's just an explanation.
una construcción de 3 edificios, una al lado de otra.
Okay, 3 edificios. Okay, I went to 2 interviews, and the first one I had was a building that was divided in 3 parts. Ms. Sanchez, basically what she tried to explain, those apartment buildings are divided in 3 different apartment buildings, like similar to co-op, but for people with low income. Okay, entonces, ¿qué pasó al lado del otro? And the building was right next to the other. The first building, I had to put together many of the requirements that they were asking for me, many of the documents that they were putting together. And I was only denied because of my earnings. At the moment of the interview, I only had $100 missing. So what I tried to say was only $100 less than the requirements that they were asking for. And I was only denied the apartment only because of this. Okay. And demuestra que no podía pagar la ciudad que la parte era como una renta de $550. They were saying that I needed to demonstrate that I will be able to pay the monthly rent, and this apartment was just $550. So basically, because it was only $100 less than the requirements, I was denied the apartment. And I was paying $700 to rent just a small bedroom in one of the apartments for several years, and with all the proofs of the place. Okay, when I finished the 3rd building of the same project, they communicated with me and they wanted to know if I was still interested in obtaining this apartment, and also they also wanted to know if there were also some apartments that were available in that area, and also if my income will qualify for those apartments. Rápidamente copié, o sea, cogiste todos los documentos juntos, lo que quieres decir. So,
perdón.
No te preocupes, tranquila.
Este otro apartamento era uno de los mismos 3.
Okay. This was one of the same apartments of the 3 apartments I mentioned before. So quickly, I put all the documents together. I asked my employer to give me a free day so I can go to the van, and I called my employer to explain everything to him, right? I was also looking for my income tax returns, and I was also looking for the pay stubs. But again, when they review everything, the answer was again the same. I didn't qualify because I didn't live in the community, in the kind of priority community. Ms. Sanchez, what she means to say is the place where they're supposed to have
I'm sorry.
community. Yes.
I understand.
Yes.
But we need to move on. If you could
Yes,
just try to
we almost
summarize a
finished.
little bit.
My apologies. The letter's very long, Ms. Sanchez. It's where the community is located. They didn't have priority, that location, okay? I was very surprised about the situation because this building was located right next to the other building. I feel very frustrated. I feel very depressed, and I was confused at the same time. And how it's supposed to be that they are looking at your profile, right? And they're looking at the profile of every applicant, and that they're just denying you like that. They know where you live. They already know your year earnings and your monthly earnings. And after that, they wanted to verify your application request, and after that, they were just rejecting you on purpose, only to be able to prove that those digital data was not available. So this made me question myself about the clarity of this housing process. Ok, un porcentaje muy bajo, son menores de $40,000, ¿no? Algunos de ellas, ¿no? Ok, algunos de ellos solamente. Muy pocas. Ok. A very low percentage of housing lotteries require an income of less than $40,000. These processes are very long. They are not clear, and something very important, they have a lot of bureaucracy. Te dan solamente 10 días, and they only give you 10 days to put all these documents together and to handle these documents to them. When in the majority of the offices, they take a long time to surrender these documents, they only giving you 10 days there. Some of them also require you to manage technology very well, because you have to submit the application to a web page, right? You have to upload all these documents to the portal of Housing Connect, and also to send many email messages in order to qualify for this. And sometimes it's very difficult because they don't give you the facility for people who don't know how to use this technology well. Lastly, where I live right now is it's not perfect, it's a misplaced, and there are many apartment units that are rented for people who have subsidies. Like, subsidies means like housing vouchers. And some of these people who have these housing vouchers are people who are mentally ill, people with mental problems. So it's this may for you difficult ways to live in these buildings because of the kind of people who are living in these buildings, and because it's a lot of insecurity, and also it's a big mess inside of these buildings. We need a system of housing that made the honor for the name that they're offering, right? We need like a program that will make the New Yorkers to connect each other, especially the ones who are very vulnerable, right? And the people who have options to have like real housings, not only temporary housing, but permanent housings, and also there's accessible to people on New York who have low income. Because of the contrary, the people with low income will have so many problems, especially in places like the Bronx. And we will live without any hope, and we will not be able to live in a place with dignity or a deserved place. Thanks to all of you for the opportunity to share my story and to be able to talk about the big necessity and the big need that we have to simplify this housing process. Okay. ¿Todo está bien? ¿Quieres agregar algo? Eso es todo. Okay.
Thank you, gracias. Para mí muy importante que todo lo que usted ha dicho esté en el archivo en inglés también, para que cuando estén debatiendo estas leyes, que se pueda ver todo lo que usted dijo. Pero le quiero agradecer, yo creo que cuando nos conocimos, usted estaba en el cuarto, sí, viviendo todavía. Entonces, muchas felicidades, gracias a NHP por la ayuda que le dio a usted. Pero queremos más que se repita esa historia. So I'll just say that in English. I think that when she and I met for the first time, she was actually still living in the one bedroom, and it was such a hardship, 6 years of waiting. But I am just so thankful for the work that UNHP does in the community, that we have these success stories, but we want to make this the rule, not the exception. And so I look forward to working on these maybe bills, maybe just reforms. Sometimes we move legislation in order to get policy changes, and I don't think it's a coincidence that there was an announcement by HPD earlier this week on re-rentals, but we do what we can, right, to make policy move and to deliver for New Yorkers. So, le está explicando, eso no lo tengo que hacer yo.
Okay, I was saying so she can understand.
Yeah.
Okay,
no, you go ahead. You go ahead. Pero muchas gracias porque su historia ayuda a que nos podamos mover.
Okay. Ms. Sanchez, it's possible to send the testimony in Spanish, right? Will be okay, right?
Yes.
So she doesn't have to translate everything into English now, right?
No, ellos se lo pueden, la organización puede mandárselo en inglés.
Oh, yeah, they have translators there in the organization too, okay?
Thank you so much. And New York Housing Conference, thank you for your policy brief in February. That also was very helpful in moving this along. Thank you. Okay, I now want to call on the next panel, Shane Canada, Shasiri Sami from Local 30, Brendan Ben, Local 30, and Richard Bess. And thank you for your patience. So the way you determine who goes next is you have to fight to the finish. I'm kidding. You go.
Good afternoon. Chairperson Sanchez and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify. I am Brendan Ben, business representative for the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 30, representing stationary engineers who operate building systems throughout New York City. I express our strong support for Intro 1207, which corrects the qualifying experience requirements for high-pressure boiler operating engineer license. This legislation addresses a critical issue by allowing apprenticeship training to count concurrently with supervised work experience. This restores the original intent of the code, which was altered by a grammatically correction in previous revisions. Currently, apprentices must complete their program and then accumulate 3 additional years of experience before qualifying for license. Our apprentices already gain valuable hands-on experience during the training. As the only New York State Department of Labor approved apprenticeship program in our field, our 3-year program ensures apprentice works 40 hours weekly under the direct supervision of a licensed engineer, plus attend unpaid schooling after work hours. The current code prevents counting this supervised work time towards their experience requirement, creating an unnecessary barrier at the time when skilled trades face workforce shortages. This amendment maintains all safety standards while creating a more efficient pathway to license. Applicants will still need 3 years of supervised work experience within 7 years preceding the application. We simply acknowledging that apprenticeship work is qualifying experience. Can I finish? I speak on this issue not just as a union representative, but from personal experience. I myself went through the apprenticeship program, and at the time, my supervised work experience was counted concurrently with my training. This opportunity made a profound difference in my life for my family. It provided me with the economic stability, career advancement, and ability to support my loved ones while developing valuable skills that serve our city's infrastructure needs. The current interpretation of the code has created unnecessary barriers for the next generation of engineers who deserve the same opportunity I had. This change is not about lowering the standards, it's about restoring the original intent of the licensing requirements while maintaining safety protocols. On behalf of the International Union of Operating Engineers Local 30 and the next generation of stationary engineers, I urge this committee to support Intro 1207. Thank you for your consideration. I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Hello? Okay. Good morning, Chairperson Sanchez and committee members. My name is Shane Canada. I was accepted into the Stationary Engineer Apprenticeship Program 17 years ago. This program was a catalyst for understanding theory, and principles of HVAC, electrical, plumbing, and the like. The immersive method of learning while working in the field helped hone my trade skills in real time versus the traditional route of attending college but lacking the hands-on skills obtained by applying what I learned immediately. The apprenticeship program has served as a bookend in my life. I was constantly searching for a career that either provided a sense of purpose or a career that would allow me enough financial security to become a homeowner and raise a family in these inflationary times. I have been afforded both, a true blessing. It's challenging to believe that any of the things that I have accomplished to date would have been possible without the apprenticeship program. Prior to applying, I wasn't aware of what a stationary engineer was, nor the importance of the position in the day-to-day workings of facilities. I have not yet obtained my high-pressure license. With the passing of this legislation, I will be able to sit for the exam this coming September 25. This change would recognize that my apprenticeship work experience counts toward my licensing requirements. Removing 2 years off my eligibility requirement at the age of 43 is immensely beneficial. It is giving me a leg up in achieving my own financial and career goals. I strongly urge you to support Intro 1207 as it will make a meaningful difference for apprentices like me. Thank you.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Chair Sanchez. Good afternoon, committee. My name is Richard Best, and I graduated from the Stationary Apprenticeship Program back in June 2023. The apprenticeship program has taught me all the necessary skills and hands-on experience to excel in this trade. With practical experience provided by Local 30, I am now able to handle various types of machinery safely and properly. During my time in the apprenticeship program, I was able to earn 2 years of STEAM time from the program, which pushed me ahead to qualify for my high-pressure boiler license. If this was not done, I wouldn't be able to sit for my test, therefore extending my period an extra 2 years and 6 months rather than 6 months. The apprenticeship program gave me the opportunity to get my high-pressure boiler license at an accelerated pace, and I'm grateful for the apprenticeship program as it helps me to achieve my goal of becoming a high-pressure stationary engineer. I urge the committee to support Intro 1207 to recognize the experience gained from the apprenticeship program. Thank you.
Thank you. The only thing is that there's no way you can be 43. I thought you were actually 17. No, thank you. It's so helpful to see the real life example of what we're changing when we pass these corrections. So I want to thank you. I also want to thank you for your great advocacy to get this bill supported by so many council members so quickly and to have us move. I'm very glad that we could move it through the process because it's an important change. So thank you for being here and thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
No, thank you. She's usually my co-chair, but she gave me a chance today, so thank you. There you go. I get that. Thank you. I will now call the next panel, Eric Lee from Volunteers of America of Greater New York, Victor Mejia y Valentina Mejia. Okay, you can begin when ready. Pueden empezar cuando estén listos.
Okay, gracias. Buenas tardes y gracias por la oportunidad.
Disculpe, are you translating for her?
Yes, but ¿lo tiene escrito, señorita?
No tengo que escribirlo, nomás le tengo 2 preguntas. No tengo que escribirle. Muchas gracias.
Ok, entonces ella va a traducir para usted porque todo tiene que llegar al archivo de la audiencia.
Gracias.
Entonces usted hable, pero dele como 30 segundos para que ella pueda traducirle.
Exacto,
¿okay?
exacto.
Español, sí.
Sí. Bueno, sí, hablen los dos. Yo le entiendo, no se preocupe, pero también los demás tienen que entender.
Sí.
Ok, vaya.
Ok. Buenas tardes y gracias por la oportunidad. Mi nombre es Valentina Mejía, el de él Victoriano Mejía.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Valentina Mejia, and his name is Victor Mejia. Puede seguir, señora.
Ok. Les tengo una pregunta. Desde el 2012, thank you. Desde el 2012 estoy sometiendo aplicaciones. Sometí una aplicación que yo pagué $175.
No, señora.
¿Ah?
So I have a question. I have one question for you. So since 2012, I've been submitting applications. So I submitted an application for $175. Me dijo que sometió una aplicación por 175.
Yo pagaba. Ok. Sometiendo esa aplicación para San Félix Neri, apartment. yo visitaba la oficina de Miss Sánchez, donde yo pagaba tren. Viendo la oficina de Miss Sánchez, ahí conocí una conexión que me conectó a la oficina de Miss Yumelia, la cual ella me ha dado seguimiento, me ha metido aplicaciones, sí me han llamado. Ok.
¿Cómo me puede repetir el nombre del apartamento? ¿San Ferrin, me dice?
Sí, ok.
No, en lo que dijo primero, San Ferrin.
Ok. Me llegó un flyer a mi casa. Porque sí, me llegó un flyer a mi casa porque voy a la iglesia. Esos son de los apartamentos San Feli Neri. Son dos buildings, San Feli Neri.
So I got an application, and there are two buildings. There are these San Felinering apartments, and I actually had to pay the train to get there. So I remember that I used to go to Miss Sanchez's office, and then they were following up with my applications. And then I remember that that commission then transferred me to Miss Jumeya's office, and then I remember that I just started to apply over and over and over again, and I did get a call back for a couple of applications, maybe 3 of them.
Ok. El voucher de nosotros, por ser una pareja, solamente ellos me permitían un dormitorio. Pero como yo estaba haciendo el proceso por los doctores de él, que me aprobaran 2 dormitorios, no pude conseguirlo.
¿Dijo doctores?
Sí, los doctores de él.
So I had the voucher, and I was through the process. But the thing is that since we're a couple, they were only approving me for 1 bedroom. And then I was asking his doctors to get 2 bedrooms instead of 1, but I wasn't able to.
Ok, a través del proceso, como tengo que pagar el tren para ir a la oficina de Miss Sánchez, me quedo con la oficina de Miss Yumelia, que ella me da seguimiento. Ok, ahí sometí una aplicación en el 3001 de Gran Conco, próximo donde vivo.
And then, since I had to pay the train or the subway to go to Miss Sanchez's office, then I actually only stayed at Miss Yumeya's office because they were following up on my case. So I applied for an apartment that's at 3001 Grand Concourse. Entonces me dice que aplicó en el 3001 de Grand Concourse, que es donde vive.
Sí, próximo donde vivo.
That's next to where I actually live. It's nearby to where I live.
Sometimos los documentos 2 veces. Me mandaron a apelar. Pidieron los papeles 2 veces, los documentos. La oficina de ella lo sometió. Después me mandan a decir que apele. Metí la apelación y después me lo negaron.
So I submitted the documents twice. And then they told me that I had to appeal. And I actually submitted the documents to her office twice. And then they told me that I had to appeal after I was rejected.
En los últimos tiempos me tiré a trabajar de home LA, pudiendo hacer otro trabajo. Pero para hacer más dinero y logré un apartamento, cambié mi esquello de trabajo. Me tiré a trabajar de home LA. Trabajo para 3 agencias para hacer dinero. Él recibe el Social Security y tiene un voucher de 2 cuartos. Y no he podido lograr un apartamento. Tengo 2 años en For Independent, en list. Yo le pregunto, ¿por qué razón? Buscando 6 meses del banco.
Okay. So I actually had to start working as a home health aide, even when I had another job. So I had to change my schedule. I had even to work with 3 different agencies, and I had another job, but I had to be able to work even up to 50 hours with 3 different agencies just to be able to apply or meet the qualifications. So even though when he has 2 vouchers and he's receiving Social Security, I've been on the waiting list for 2 years. Entonces me dice que he estado en la lista de espera por 2 años y que me decían de los 6 meses.
En diciembre lo cumplí, en Fue Independe. En Fue Independe, eso es en el Bronx. El área de Riverdale.
And that's
que
in
por
the
ahí
Bronx
trabaja.
area, the Riverdale, in Fonts Independent. ¿Qué me decía de los 6 meses? Perdón, me decía eso.
Que es un proceso, hay que trabajar mucho reuniendo documentos, incluyendo la oficina. Es casi mediodía sometiendo documentos.
And that's a very tedious process. You have to work a lot, and you have to be submitting documents, you have to apply, and it's even half day just to apply for it and submitting the documents. And I want to ask you why. Why do I have to be on a waiting list for 2 years, and I have to be processing this for over 6 months?
Del 20, ¿cómo se dice? 2012, sometiendo aplicaciones, pagaba mi dinero. En ese tiempo yo era empleada del Broadway, certificada por el Broadway. Trabajaba con la escuela del Broadway en ese tiempo, que también hacía dinero. Con el voucher, eso es así, nunca logré nada. Como no sabía, pagaba dinero porque quería un apartamento, porque vivimos entre cucarachas y ratones. Ahora mismo, mi apartamento está full de cucarachas, porque lo que pongo hay que salir 3 horas.
Since 2012, I've been applying and paying my own money, for example, and I have a job. Like I've had a job all this time at Borough B. I used to work at a school. I work at a school, and even having the vouchers, having his vouchers, and I just couldn't achieve anything on the applications. And I want to say that both of us, we are living between cockroaches and mice, even when we are able to pay and we're paying the money. Entonces decía, perdón, lo de las cucarachas y los ratones.
Exacto. No puedo, ahorita mismo lo tengo lleno el apartamento. No me da vergüenza decirlo. Yo lo digo. No puedo ponerlo por la sencilla razón de que él casi no sale. Y yo no lo voy a matar. Por eso dejo la cucaracha que camine y los ratones que caminen. Yo me la paso trabajando porque necesito hacer dinero a ver si consigo un apartamento. Hoy yo salí a las 7 de la mañana. Yo entré anoche a las 7 de la noche a trabajar. 12 horas, salí hoy a las 7 de la mañana. A él lo llamé. Levántate, báñate.
Yo sé, pero disculpe.
No, perdona tú.
So we live between cockroaches and mice, and I don't have any shame to say this. And I just, you know what, I just can't keep doing this because even having the money, I can't just submit it and put the money into the application, because the thing is that he almost does not go out, and I can't kill him, right?
That's what
so
you said,
I
yeah.
just let it, I know, but so I just let the cockroaches and the mice just walk in between us, and I do have money. So actually, I went to work at 7 p.m. yesterday, and I went out of my job at 7 a.m. So even working 12 hours, I can't keep going on like this. So I just let the plagues roam around freely.
Thank you. Señora, llegamos al tiempo, pero voy a invitar a UNHP si quieren traducir cualquier otra cosa, porque sé que hay coordinación entre ustedes. Is there anything you want to come up? Yeah. So for the record, you have to speak into the mic, yeah.
Okay. Gracias.
No, claro, hay que decirlo
yo
todo.
Creo que usted explicó su historia correctamente, pero creo que es importante decir que son 2 personas mayores que han estado buscando apartamento por varios años y no han conseguido nada, y usted se siente confundida de cuál es el proceso porque es negada a tantas unidades, le invitan, le piden papeles, la tienen de un lado para otro y usted ya no sabe qué hacer. So I just want to say that she's highlighted her story. She's worked a 12-hour shift. She's a senior. They're both elderly. They don't want to be working so much, but they have to because they feel that that's the only way to afford the rent that they have right now. And they are constantly denied after being invited to multiple interviews. So they're confused with why this process is not working for them after applying to so many applications, after getting help from so many different agencies and still not winning that golden ticket that I spoke about earlier. Yeah. So thank you.
Gracias, gracias. Sí.
Pues muchas gracias por esa
gracias,
participación.
Luis Sánchez. Un consejero de tu oficina prometió ayudarme. Yo iba allá, pero ahí una conexión me conecté con ella. Entonces su oficina de ella está próximo a mi casa.
Sí.
¿Tú no me recuerdas?
Yo sí.
¿Te recuerdas el meeting tuyo en la 196 y Gran Conco? Cerramos la calle y la comida. Nosotros vivimos ahí cerquita.
Thank you. We're good. Thank you, porque se terminó el tiempo. Thank you so much. She's highlighting that we met before, and my office said that we would help her, and here we are today, and she still doesn't have a unit. So, it's just such a common story and a painful one. So we hope to make changes that help us to meet this challenge. Ay, no se quedaron con el amigo, no lo van a acompañar. You go ahead. I said they're not keeping you company. You kept them company.
It's okay, but yes. Thank you, Chair Sanchez and members of the committee for allowing me to testify today. I'm Eric Lee. I'm the Director of Public Policy at Volunteers of America Greater New York, or VOA-GNY for short. I will submit written testimony following the hearing. We greatly appreciate the committee for holding today's hearing on improving access to affordable housing and the Housing Connect system. My organization, VOA-GNY, is one of the largest human services providers in the region and an active developer of affordable and supportive housing. We are extremely proud of two of our most recent projects in the Bronx, including East Clark Place Senior Residence, which is newly renovated in the Jerome Avenue Highbridge Concourse neighborhood in the Bronx, as well as our YP Senior Residence, which is actually in your district, Chair Sanchez. We would love to have you come visit. We are currently just beginning to start moving tenants in. When we finish, we will be fully occupied with 117 low-income seniors, including 37 formerly homeless senior households. Affordable housing is extremely limited, as we've heard today. It's an extremely precious resource, and we must do everything we can to maximize use of every single unit within the city, given the overwhelming need. We understand the council and the administration's shared goal of making affordable housing process more equitable. But until the city can ensure that Housing Connect is positioned to effectively achieve this goal, the city must continue to use more flexible options like the one-year waiver which HPD implemented to more quickly match qualified candidates to affordable housing. VOA-GNY staff are currently being trained by HPD to become qualified marketing agents to gain access to Housing Connect. However, the training process and the approval process for prospective agents can take well over half a year to complete. We welcome the committee's support in prioritizing additional funding for HPD. Sorry, do you mind if I wrap up? Thank you. So we appreciate the committee's support in prioritizing additional support for HPD to both increase the frequency of the scheduled trainings for marketing agents, because we heard there's only 63 citywide currently, as well as shorten the time frame to approve them once they go through the training process. More frequent trainings and faster approvals means that there's more hands to do the work. It would allow us to be able to list and lease up our own units. This is especially important for re-rentals because at any given time, there's a very few number of units within our entire portfolio that are being turned over, and it's just simply not cost effective to hire a third party to do the re-rentals as marketing agents. We imagine more providers would also want to do this themselves, given the HPD's stance to move towards Housing Connect as the main way to do re-rentals in post-April 2026. With regards to the legislation heard today, VOA GNY supports 1265 to require email or text notifications. This could be especially helpful for shelter residents, as our case managers or housing specialists could help track pending documentation requests. We know that our clients often have many things that are time intensive, including full-time jobs, and being able to have active eyes on this is really helpful to make sure their application does not stall. And we also support Intro 1266 to require in-person assistance from HPD in the community. Elderly and low-income households have very limited access or familiarity with the online platform, and we recognize bringing the services to them in the communities they need can make sure that it's not a barrier to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate your testimony. Okay, we will now turn to remote testimony. Once your name is called, a member of our staff will unmute you and the Sergeant at Arms will give you the go-ahead to begin. Please wait for the Sergeant to announce that you may begin before delivering your testimony. I will now call Karen Baez.
You may begin.
Good afternoon, Housing Chair Sanchez and members of the committee. My name is Karen. I am testifying on behalf of Northwest Bronx Community and Clergy Coalition, a 50-year-old member-led organization organizing for racial justice and economic democracy. As you might know, Northwest Bronx started around housing decades ago in response to redlining and disinvestment. Unfortunately, housing is still one of the most important issues facing Bronx residents that are facing displacement, poor housing conditions, and a lack of affordable housing. I have helped multiple Bronxites apply through the Housing Connect system, and we always experience like difficulties navigating the system. We strongly support the package of reforms being considered today to improve Housing Connect and the affordable housing lottery system. Every day, our members experience profound frustration with the system that often feels inaccessible, confusing, and unresponsive, especially for low-income Black, Brown, immigrant, and older residents. Filing vacant rental units more quickly is a critical common-sense step. It is unacceptable for units to sit empty while families desperately search for affordable homes. And streamlining re-rentals will move us closer to a system that serves people, not bureaucracy. We also applaud the proposals to require text and email notifications and provide in-person application assistance. Access to information is access to housing. Too many residents miss out on opportunities because they never receive updates or because they face technological barriers they cannot overcome alone. These bills move us toward a more just, transparent, and accessible system. We urge the council to pass these bills and continue to build a Housing Connect system that truly connects our communities.
Thank you. Time's expired.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen. I was wondering who was behind the Northwest Bronx logo. You've been up on the screen the entire hearing, by the way. Thank you, Karen. I'll now call on Robert Desir.
You may begin.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Robert Desir. I'm speaking on behalf of the Legal Aid Society and speaking in strong support of Intro 1264, 1265, and 1266. First, I want to thank Councilmember Sanchez and the committee for taking time to address these issues with care and urgency. These bills reflect a deep understanding of the real barriers New Yorkers face, especially seniors and vulnerable residents that they face when they're trying to access truly affordable housing. And the testimony that we've heard has been a testament to those experiences. Intro 1264 makes the process more transparent and accountable by requiring that applicants be notified clearly and directly when a unit matching their preferences becomes available. It shifts responsibility off the individual and puts it where it belongs on the system. Intro 1265 improves transparency and usability by allowing applicants to receive updates by email or text and to designate a trusted representative. That's empowering. A simple standardized consent form would ensure applicants understand and approve who has access to their information, helping prevent misuse while still allowing trusted support. Intro 1266 will make a real difference by requiring HPD to provide weekly in-person housing help at local community centers. This is a critical step towards ensuring that older adults and others who are not digitally connected aren't left behind. As HPD designs this outreach program, it might be useful to prioritize high-need areas within each district and ensure accessibility by public transit. Together, these bills will create a more inclusive, user-friendly, and just housing application process. We urge their swift passage. And again, thank you, Councilmember Sanchez, for leading on this.
Thank you so much, Robert. Appreciate your testimony. I'll now call on Alex Martinez.
You may begin.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Alex Martinez. I am here testifying on behalf of Kingsbridge Heights Community Center. Kingsbridge Heights Community Center, KHCC, has been a housing ambassador since 2017. And in that time, we have supported over 2,000 constituents with Housing Connect. The reality is that the need for community members have for navigating the process and portal exceeds CBO's capacity, as little to no funding is provided by HPD. In our experience, annual funding has only been made available 3 times since 2019, and the reality is that the 15 to 20
Oh, you froze.
efforts made by HPD to clarify the housing lottery definition of affordable housing, many constituents are often frustrated by how high the income requirements are for the buildings, often requiring incomes over $100,000 not meet a lot of the needs that we see in the Bronx. The portal has grown more and more glitchy, and the website is often down. It is a disservice to the clients who come to our weekly walk-in hours only to be turned away because the website is not working. The constituents who need the most support are those with limited access or comfort with technology. This is especially challenging and true for constituents to navigate when there is a limited digital literacy or language barriers. As housing ambassadors, KHCC is most qualified to speak on the legislation proposing the email text notifications and in-person application assistance. Many constituents unintentionally miss critical updates and deadlines if they are unable or unaware to log into the portal, or they do so but are unable to
Thank you. Time's expired.
the webs. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, and please do submit your testimony because we lost you for a little bit. I want to make sure to capture that. Thank you. Sonia Simpson.
You may begin.
Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Sonia Simpson. I am part of Bronx advocacy group called Ahora Affordable Housing Opportunity Right Away. I have been applying through Housing Connect since my children were young. I have been selected for a unit, but the time allowed was not able to put the document in a timely fashion due to the crunch time and the poor communication. I have a fixed and limited income. There are very few apartments on Housing Connect for which I am eligible. I need an affordable, clean, and healthy apartment. I find the Housing Connect portal difficult to use. I try to use my phone to update my application. I have worked with UNHP to get help. I receive constant emails from Housing Connect for apartments, and I cannot afford and I'm not eligible for. This is frustrating, and I can only only imagine how frustrating this must be for the elderly or non-English speakers. Going forward, I would like to be able to talk to a person when I am selected for a unit. Emails should be sent only to those who are eligible for the unit. We need more units for low-income families and individuals. There needs to be more help on Housing Connect in communities. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much, Sonia. Let's try to make those changes. Thank you. Next, I'd like to call on Bake Tiam.
You may begin.
Hello, everyone. My name is Baga Cham. I'm the Housing and Health Community Organizer at Center for Independence of the Disabled in New York. We advocate for people with disabilities in the 5 boroughs of New York City. And thank you for having this. A large number of our consumers use this housing lottery portal to find housing. We advocate for a fair and just proceeding of housing applications to combat discrimination that people with disabilities may encounter when their disabilities are being disclosed. This is discriminatory. That is why we strongly advocate for fairness in selecting applicants for apartments and homes without disqualifying people because they live with disabilities. Individuals with disabilities are entitled to reasonable accommodations and modifications so that they can fully enjoy their homes. Denying special services, refusing modification, and not accepting service dogs can be seen as ableist. And sometimes we support Intro 1207 in relation to allowing for time spent in apprenticeship to count toward the supervised practical experience time requirement for granting of high-pressure boiler operating engineer licenses. We also support Intro 1264 in relation to how affordable housing units, which subsequently became vacant, are rented through the housing portal. We also support Intro 1265 in relation to notification regarding application in New York City housing portal and designation of representative to receive notification. We also support Intro 1266 in relation to requiring the Department of Housing Preservation
Thank you. Time
and
expired.
Department to recreate an in-person housing portal assistance program.
Thank you, Bake. I really appreciate your testimony. I'd now like to call on Kevin Wolf.
You may begin.
Great. Good afternoon, and thank you, Chair Sanchez. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, great. Thank you. My name is Kevin Wolf, and I'm with the Center for New York City Neighborhoods, and I would like to thank you for holding this hearing on Housing Connect. There was a lot of good testimony specifically on rentals, but we wanted to talk about homeownership and how Housing Connect impacts homeowners. The top line message that we have today for the hearing is that Housing Connect 2.0 needs reform. It's not working for home buying and purchasing affordable homes in New York City, and we would like to see some significant reforms. Notwithstanding, we understand that HPD just sent out an email last week saying that they'll be temporarily offering a waiver for the re-rentals and the resales. We understand that, and that's good, but we want to see a comprehensive overhaul. Since Housing Connect 2.0 was designed, not homeownership. And so what we would want to do is have something that is designed specifically for homeownership. And before I get to the recommendations, I do want to say this, Chair Sanchez. The city already provides ample resources for home buying, but right now it's not connected, ironically. And so we have Home First and a huge commitment of over $40 million to home buying. That the city council funds of nonprofits that provide first-time home buying counseling. They're not connected to Housing Connect. We'd actually like to see training and funding will be one of our recommendations. We have affordable housing programs offered by this state through Housing Connect. And so what we would like
Thank you. Time's expired.
more synergy and more connection between those two items. And I have my written testimony so we can submit that as a follow-up.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kevin. I'd now like to call on Mireya Salas.
You may begin.
Okay, hearing no one, I'd like to call Christopher Leon Johnson.
Hello. Sorry. Hello. My name is Christopher. Hello.
Will they get you in person, but I don't?
Hello. I'm inside the city council hearing for the housing. So for housing, and so I want to speak on speak on support of the Housing Connect, but at the same time, they need to make sure that these nonprofits are not involved with this stuff. These nonprofits are not involved with this type of projects. So I'm inside the Kevin Riley zoning hearings. I'm kind of busy. So, but thank you. I'm here to show my support. Okay, thank you so much. I'm here to show my support. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If we have inadvertently missed anyone that has registered to testify today and has yet to be called, please use the Zoom raise hand function if you are testifying remotely, and you will be called in the order that your hand has been raised. If you are testifying in person, please come to the dais. Seeing no one, I will now close the hearing. Thank you to the members of the administration and the members of the public who have joined us today. This hearing is adjourned.